And so, this worm could turn pretty quickly in his favor. Lawrence Jones and Brian Kilmeade, two of his colleagues at Fox, had this to say.
They're going out there with unnamed sources. When we sit on the couch with him almost every day, I think it's
for
just...
over 10 years.
Yeah, for over 10 years. It just... To me, that is the stunning part, especially when you don't reach out to his co-host of the show for comment to say, hey, what do you guys think about that? No one has been contacted about that. I think that screams that it's a witch hunt.
And you can't fill in for Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, work for 8 hours every Sunday, fill in for all of us over the course of 14 years. The way his detractors are describing him, it would be impossible to think he'd still be surviving. But stay out of the marriages. It has nothing to do with this.
Bill Haggerty.
It'd be like if Sean from Sean Thompson was talking about your work ethic, because you guys don't even see each other. You're on different parts of the day. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Okay.
I'm
just saying that these people, some of the people that we believe have come forward to say, anonymous sources didn't even work with him. They worked at different shifts, like a night shift as opposed to a morning shift.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's a total witch hunt.
Tennessee Senator Bill Haggerty was on CNN, and he had this to say about where Hegseth stands right now in terms of getting to 50.
Well, I'd say this. I was just with Pete meeting with a large group of House members, and he had an ovation that was resounding. I think that Pete is, as people get to know him again, as people get to see his deliberation, his deliberate stance on trying to repair the Pentagon, try to fix our recruiting crisis, our retention crisis, I think people are overwhelmingly supportive of him, and I think that's going to continue to move in the right direction. The momentum is with Pete right now.
Momentum is with him. Okay, I mean, there's reports that there's a half a dozen Republican senators who are wavering on him. I mean, you can probably guess the names along with us: Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Mitch McConnell, John Curtis from Utah, who's turning out to apparently be quite a squish. Not much of an improvement over Mitt Romney so far. Lindsey Graham and Joni Ernst, and reportedly another three who are not committed. But I think how he fares now going public, and when people start to see surrogates also representing his interests and echoing his messaging, then it starts to provide some cover for these senators to come around. I mean, remember, this is about applying pressure. That's what politics always is. Who can apply the most pressure? Because I hate to break it to you, most people in public office are not these towering individuals of principle. They respond to pressure, thinking about their own political vitality and viability going forward. So this is why you always have to make the case, and you have to be willing to apply pressure with the relentlessness that your detractors do. Corey in Woodlawn.
Hey, thanks for taking the call, Darren. Good morning, Navy. I'm sick of this one-trick pony. The media constantly does this. Someone gets in there with a populist, nationalist agenda, and they're trying these tricks again. They're trying to bring these guys down with their media, and we know they're afraid. But the one good thing about it is that the American people aren't even listening to these guys anymore, and they're not even taking a hit. I don't even listen to them. I listen to you. I listen to Sean. I've got a few podcasters, and that's it, because I do not trust the words that come out of these people's mouths. Thanks.
Great. Thanks for the call, Corey. All right, coming up at 5:38, we'll hear from Pete Hegseth's mom, a little bit more of what he had to say with Megyn Kelly as well. Maybe fold in some ongoing fallout from the Hunter Biden pardon. That's all at 5:38.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
12 degrees, a wind chill of -4 this morning at 5:32. Search goes on for the man who gunned down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Manhattan. New York Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch saying a search is underway for the suspect in the killing.
The suspect fled, first on foot, then on an e-bike, and was last seen in Central Park.
The suspect in the Wednesday morning shooting ran off and ultimately was unable to be found. Fox's Alexis McAdams reports for us from the crime scene.
That was taken right outside of this Hilton where this all unfolded. It shows that suspect walking up with a silencer on his gun. In this video clip, there's a silencer on this gun. Walks up just within a reach distance to the CEO, pulls it out, and shoots him in the back, okay? Then the guy falls to the ground. poor man who was just in town for a business meeting, and he shoots him again. So that's just some new surveillance video that we're working to try and get and see if we can get that clip. But I saw it off of a cell phone here by someone who was out at the scene.
The 50-year-old who was in the city for an investor conference was shot multiple times outside the New York Hilton Midtown and later pronounced dead. President-elect Donald Trump's embattled pick for defense secretary is vowing to hang in there, meeting again with lawmakers on Capitol Hill. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham among them.
I am not going to make any decision based on an anonymous source. If you're not willing to raise your hand under oath and make the accusation, it doesn't count. I've heard everything about all these people. None of it counts.
Hegseth has faced numerous sexual assault allegations. The Washington Post reporting Hegseth will visit Donald Trump at the Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida later today. 2 kindergarten students are in the hospital in critical condition. A suspected gunman dead after a shooting at a religious school in California.
Both of them boys, one age 6, one age 5. In addition to that, law enforcement officers located an adult male who was down, deceased from what appears to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. That's
Butte County Sheriff Corey Honea. Police say the incident happened at the Feather River School of the Seventh-day Adventists Wednesday afternoon. Well, some college basketball news overnight. The University of Kansas is no longer undefeated. Jayhawks fell on the road to Creighton last night. A key manager at the McCormick Place Convention Center in Chicago faces federal fraud charges over allegations of pocketing kickbacks from a company contracted to provide snowplow services. In a federal indictment, Dominic Gironda apparently schemed with an associate to approve inflated invoices for services that weren't actually provided at McCormick Place. An investigation is underway after a homeless encampment in Elgin caught fire. The blaze started last night near North State and Kimball on a windy night. Firefighters found 2 to 3 structures completely engulfed in flames. Residents are now banding together to help out.
I just wanted to help. I knew I had something that could maybe make a person warm, and posted on my page. I've already got people messaging me. Things are going to be dropped off here tomorrow. I'm going to be dropping things off.
And a person of interest is in custody following a deadly shooting last week in Chicago's Lincoln Park neighborhood. Authorities released surveillance video showing a person of interest in that case dating back to November 27 this week. Blackhawks lost to the Bruins at the United Center 4-2. The Bulls look to get a winning streak going when they visit San Antonio at the AT&T Center tonight. The news, a service of Trim Light Chicago. You know, you've got to see it to believe it. Amazing, customizable, and permanent holiday and year-round accent lighting for the exterior of your home or business. It's not too late to book your holiday installation. Do it today with Trim Light Chicago. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
If you listen to the mainstream media and the Democrats, you'd think it was a sin to be black and conservative. Well, John Anthony blows up that perception every week on Black and Right. Join John this Saturday afternoon at 4 when he pushes back against the left and its regressive, progressive agenda that tries to dictate how people should think or feel about politics. Listen to Black and Right this Saturday afternoon at 4, right here on AM 560. The Answer.
Amy Jacobson and Dan Proft here, and we want to tell you about our 2024 Food for the Poor campaign.
If you've listened to the station and to our show for any length of time, then you already know about Food for the Poor. They are a nonprofit, faith-based organization that provides food, water, medicine, clothing, and life-saving supplies directly to local partners in Latin America and the Caribbean.
We all know how bad the situation is right now in Latin America and the Caribbean.
For many families, the cost of food has simply become prohibitive, leading to sickness and starvation.
The only thing standing between these families and starvation is Food for the Poor. But in order to get this food to those who need it most, Food for the Poor needs your help. Your one-time gift of just $50 can provide life-saving food for a child for an entire year and provide their community with access to water.
To give a gift of any amount, just call 844-862 4673. That's 844-862-4673.
Or you can visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor, or just click on the Give Life banner.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call, and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit, 800-839-8484. 800-839-8484. 800-839-8484.
This is Sean Thompson. When you go on vacation, does it make sense to have somebody else pack for you? Of course not. The same can be said for your retirement. Your 401k could be packed with things you don't know about or even need. If you're close to retirement, but you don't have a plan customized to your goals, it's like kind of taking a 30-year vacation with no idea what's in the suitcase. Sounds like a stressful way to begin what should be a relaxing time. Tom Fortino at Alpha Wealth Group can help you unpack your savings and build a plan to reduce future taxes, address Social Security and health care, and a whole lot more, all with a clear, defined income strategy. Call the Alpha Wealth Group at 630-934-1855. Ask for the complimentary retirement plan. That's 630-934-1855 or online at alphawealthgroup.com. And listen to the Alpha Wealth Hour Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. right here on AM 560.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
Power up the holiday and give a gift from the top of their wish list. Visit your local Steel dealer or shop online at steelusa.com.
540. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of Trim Light Chicago. At Trim Light Chicago, book your year-round and holiday accent lighting for the exterior of your home or business. It's not too late, but do it today. Kennedy outbound, better news. Earlier accident, pulled out of your way between Pulaski and Irving Park. Bishop Ford jamming up 115th into the Ryan. 390 tollway, accident on the exit ramp to Rollwing Road. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now, your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Windy and colder with some sun. A little bitter out there this morning. Layer up, high 28. Tonight, clear and cold, a low of 16. Clear and 13 at O'Hare with a wind chill of -4. Your next news update is at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. As we were discussing, Pete Hegseth has come out punching back. He did yesterday after meeting with President Trump, where President Trump says, look, you're going to have to fight like hell. And Pete Hegseth said, well, okay, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
I'm surrounded by a great team. I got a wonderful wife. We love this country. We love Jesus Christ, our Savior. And we're going to fight like hell.
So as long as Trump isn't inclined to cut bait, why should anybody else, right? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, as well as the turnkey.pro text line, because there was a point to Hegseth's unconventional nomination. And Hegseth reiterated it on this sit-down with Megyn Kelly yesterday, Trump's philosophy, the philosophy behind the pick, and the philosophy when thinking about what needs to change at the Pentagon.
If you wanted another general or another admiral or an executive or a CEO or a politician or a lawyer to run the Defense Department, we've tried that before. He said, I want a warfighter. I want lethality, lethality, lethality. I want readiness, accountability, standards, warfighting. Pete, That's you, that's me, clean house of the woke crap. All that stuff, all the climate stuff and the CRT and the DEI and the genderism and get rid of it. Let's bring the Pentagon back to the people, the people's Pentagon for warfighters. And that's the message he gave to me that I've projected back to senators, and it resonates.
Mm-hmm. He also is unafraid of scrutiny. He was asked about FBI background check by Megyn Kelly.
Do you welcome an FBI investigation?
Well, I can't wait for an FBI investigation. Can't wait. How soon can they start?
Really?
Yes, because that gives me an opportunity for them to do a real investigation. So what the media is doing right now is a witch hunt. It's trial by false accusation and lies. The FBI is going to look through and if they do their job properly, which I fully expect they will, they'll talk to everybody and get the full story and a full understanding. That's a report I welcome. So yeah, we're not hiding for that one bit.
Okay. All right. He's going to hide out in the open. I think that's the right play.
I listened to that interview. Megyn never asked him about, how he feel about women in the military, which yesterday he did meet with Senator Joni Ernst, who served. So I don't, and to be completely honest, women, if they're physically capable and equal to men on the front line, so be it. But if not, don't change the rules for women. That's beneath us as a country.
It's not women in the military. It's women in combat roles in the military is the issue. Joe in Naperville.
Yeah, general rule that I follow is if it's an unnamed source or if it's an unproven allegation or an allegation that's older than 3 years, I don't pay any attention to it because it is so easy for people to throw garbage. I put the responsibility on the people saying this kind of BS.
Thanks for the call, Joe. Yeah, I think there's that is reflective of more and more of the attitudes of the American people because you've been subjected to so much of this unnamed, salacious allegation business that the D.C. press corps has trafficked in to try to take down Trump from every which angle they could imagine. And then we come to find out so much of it was just straight up false.
Well, yeah, they need a boogeyman.
There was
their boogeyman right now.
Well, right, but there's the trying to make somebody a boogeyman and then trying to do it in a fact-free manner. And how many stories about Trump predicated on multiple unnamed sources turned out to be complete fabrications?
Even written dossiers that were fake were complete fabrications, yes.
Right, and this is not to say, again, and Hegseth sort of intimated it, that there weren't moments, remember, he's 44 years old, so you're talking about 10 to 15 years ago, I should say. He's in his 20s, he's in his early 30s. There's been a few nights where I probably had more to drink than I should have.
No.
Particularly in my 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. Yeah, because it's
your 20s and 30s.
40s and 50s. Yeah, and on an ongoing basis. And so, this stuff and the failed marriages and what all transpired in the failed marriages. I just don't think there's much appetite. If that's all you've got, I just don't think there's much appetite for that among the body politic. And I don't think that's going to be enough to derail him as long as he does what he did yesterday, which is to continue to fight back and address these things straight away and animate surrogates to do the same. And I'll tell you what. Mom's a pretty good surrogate,
Mom?
too.
Hey, Mom, what are you doing tomorrow morning?
Penelope Hegseth, she was on Fox and Friends yesterday addressing this email that really, I think, sparked more of these stories and questions about the viability of Hegseth's nomination, because this is Mom saying, the New York Times splashy headline basically was, Mom says son is a serial abuser of women. Well, this was in the context of a failed marriage, and maybe Pete was not behaving the way Mom raised him to behave, which wouldn't shock anybody.
You hold him
accountable. I'm sure, and Pete has sort of intimated accountability. I'm not the same person I was 10 or 15 years ago, something he said yesterday. But also how Mom was treated by the press, the crash course in D.C. press corps sliming that she got, as she explained on Fox and Friends.
If we all went back 7 years, we would see that maybe we were not the people we are today. And I'm sure many of you across the country understand how difficult divorce is on a family. There's emotions. We say things. And I wrote that in haste. I wrote that with deep emotions. I wrote that out of love. And about 2 hours later, I retracted it with an apology email, but nobody's seen that. I want to say something about the media. And part of today is to discredit the media and how they operate. When they contact you, I let a few phone calls go, but then they call you and say they threaten you. That's the first thing they do. Right. They say, unless you make a statement, we will publish it as is. And I think that's a despicable way to treat anyone. Threats are dangerous. I don't think the way you operate it feels almost criminal when reporters call you and threaten you. I don't think a lot of people know that's the way they operate. And they don't care who they hurt, families, children.
Well, more than that, they don't care about what's true, and they don't care about offering context and consequence to the story because so many of them are smear merchants. They have targets that they are intent on taking down. They're not trying to inform their readership. They're not trying to advance a substantive discussion. They have targets, and they want to take them down. And I know this comes as probably not a surprise to most of the people who listen to this show. Certainly doesn't come as a surprise to us who host this show. But, ordinary people that don't routinely engage with the press, like Pete Hegseth's mom, it is a surprise. So it's good to hear her perspective.
And she was shocked. And I don't know who leaked that email from 7 years ago. But again, they didn't leak the follow-up apology. Because you do things out of character and out of context when you're going through divorce. Divorce, it's painful, but it's like a prolonged pain. And then there's children involved and grandparents involved who still want to see the kids, and it is a hot mess. So yes, she wrote that letter out of love because she's holding him accountable. She wants him to be a better man and a better person at that time, and now he is that better man.
Right.
Because of Jenny, he's got a Forrest Gump as a Jenny, and Pete Hegseth's got a Jenny.
And now Pete Hegseth knows what
Jenny.
love is.
Life is like a box of chocolate. Jenny.
David in Winnetka.
Hey, good morning, guys. Good morning, Dave. Good morning, Amy. This wokeism nonsense, it needs to go away and start in society first. There's so much cleaning up to do. White men is not evil. Criminals need to be called out as criminals and not victims. I mean, on and on and on. The commercials from the people that propagated it, starting with the BLM. Commercials should be run 24/7 about how they spent cash on homes and did this and did that. No, none of the money trickled down to black families like it was supposed to. On and on and on. It all needs to go away.
Thanks for the call, David. Craig, Mount Greenwood.
Oh, hey. Good morning, Dan and Amy, and thanks for taking my call. What's so rich here and really unbelievable is when you take a comparison of how the other side, the leftists, they get these freaks and thieves that steal women's clothes and American-hating people, everything. They get them right over the line, get them in there, get them all loaded up into their regime and everything. The media doesn't say a word. You don't hear anything about it. Then you get Trump, who won in a way where we're telling Trump what we want. He gets the people in there that they can make things right and straighten things out. And all you hear from this rotten leftist state-run media and everything is all their attacks and smears and everything like that. I mean, if they haven't learned anything yet, the next election, when they keep this stuff up and everything like that, it's even going to be more of a landslide. They keep this garbage up. And the media needs to be basically put out of work because they're garbage. That's
thanks
what
for
I
the
got
call.
to say.
Thanks for the call, Craig. I mean, that may be happening. I don't suggest you were intending in any other way. That may be happening organically. Places like MSNBC as viewers flee. Same thing that's happening with the daily newspaper, that readers are no longer, former readers, no longer interested, just losing subscribers at an alarming pace if you're interested in those outlets being a going concern. So it said something about the value that people place on what some of these smear merchants at places like MSNBC and CNN, the New York Times, the New Yorker, the Amazon Post, and so forth, what they do. Well, I'll tell you what, let's take a break, and then we'll come back and see if we've got time to talk a little bit more about Hunter Biden pardon fallout, because that also speaks to the continuing diminution of the Democrat brand. And there's some new data out that suggests that what a few of the consultants on their side have been courageous enough to say, courageous in quotation marks, scare quotes, they've got a real brand problem. And it doesn't seem like they're interested in addressing it but in any other way than doing what they've always done. And we see this on full display with the Hegseth nomination. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
I want Christmas. Just give me plain baby Jesus lying in a manger. Christmas.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Amy Jacobson and Dan Proft here, and we want to tell you about our 2024 Food for the Poor campaign.
If you've listened to the station and to our show for any length of time, then you already know about Food for the Poor. They're a nonprofit, faith-based organization that provides food, water, medicine, clothing, and life-saving supplies directly to local partners in Latin America and the Caribbean.
We all know how bad the situation is right now in Latin America and the Caribbean.
For many families, the cost of food has simply become prohibitive, leading to sickness and starvation.
The only thing standing between these families and starvation is Food for the Poor. But in order to get this food to those who need it most, Food for the Poor needs your help. Your one-time gift of just $50 can provide life-saving food for a child for an entire year and provide their community with access to water.
To give a gift of any amount, just call 844-862-4673. That's 844-862-4673.
Or you can visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor or just click on the Give Life banner.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I heard about it for 3 months and I kept wanting to do it and I just didn't. And I finally said, I'm going to do it. I just feel overall better, but I've continued to take it.
Oh, I really like them. I feel good while I'm on them, and they're easy to take, and they seem to be working well.
I love it. I love the product. And not only the product, the people that work for them, too, are really nice. That's another plus. It's the best product on the market.
I think it's a good product, so that's the reason I'll continue to take it.
It's a wonderful product. I'm trying to get as many people as I can to take it.
Merry Christmas. This season, be part of the cheer and save big with our exclusive Christmas deal. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and get 50% off your first preferred set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee as a new preferred customer by using discount code CHICAGO.
The truth is, viruses cannot be killed, and unlike bacteria, viruses are not alive. A virus is what we call a biologic entity, but we can still do something. We can destroy a virus or even keep it from being able to launch its attack on our bodies before, during, and after exposure. And this is why you need to get the kit. Our winter survival kit. Your body can protect you from these infectious bugs, but it needs a little help building up its immune defenses. And the best offense is a great defense. And that's why you need the kit. It's a perfect strategy for every infectious bug, as well as those non-living, can't-kill viruses. Our winter survival kit is a must for your home or workplace. It contains targeted nutritional components that can get the job done before, during, and after any infectious exposure. So get the kit. For details, call our Health Quest radio hotline, 800-794-1855. That's 800-794-1855. It's Health Quest Radio with me, Dr. David Kolbaba, this Saturday morning at 11.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Paul Jenkins, owner of Bancroft Architects and Engineers, a service-disabled veteran-owned small business providing design solutions for clients, including the VA. When looking for a trusted banking partner, Bancroft was lucky to find that partner in Signature Bank in 2015. With Signature, personal service goes beyond a login and a PIN number. My staff and I have the comfort of knowing that we're dealing with real people who know our business and care about us as individuals. Signature helped finance our new state-of-the-art facility, and Bancroft looks forward to further expanding business opportunities for disabled veterans and historically disadvantaged communities.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hi, I'm Tom, founder and CEO of FreedomSquare.com and the newly launched Freedom Chamber. FreedomChamber.net is the pro-American business network. Together with our co-founders, we have built this network to help our members and partners grow, to share in exclusive benefits, and have a strong voice in Washington, D.C. Consider joining us.
Hi, I'm Dave Bratt, the Patriot economist and co-founder of the Freedom Chamber. Come join us, and together we will save this great republic.
Hi, I'm Eric Oldhausen, a co-founder of Old Glory Bank and a founding member of the Freedom Chamber. I'd love to encourage you to sign up yourself and join other patriotic businesses in helping to make America great.
I'm Alfredo Ortiz, CEO of Job Creators Network and a co-founding member of the Freedom Chamber. The Freedom Chamber actually is a voice, and it's a united voice of small and medium-sized businesses that is so desperately needed across the country. Go to freedomchamber.net and sign up and join today.
AM 560, The Answer.
We'll have to pick up the ongoing fallout in the over the Hunter Biden pardon with John Hendrick at the top of the 7 o'clock hour. But here's a little taste. Chuck Schumer, Pagliacci, left positively speechless when asked about the Hunter Biden pardon.
Yes, vote.
Do you agree with some of your Democrat colleagues who say that President Biden's pardon of Hunter Biden was wrong or unwise, puts personal interest ahead of duty?
I got nothing for you on that.
Can I follow up on that? Are you concerned with the lack of transparency, lack of honesty around Biden's decision to pardon?
As I said, I got nothing for you on that. Nope. Going to
that pardoning anyone on the way out of office, family members, sets a poor precedent.
Thank you. I've got nothing for you on that.
No opinion on that. Isn't that interesting?
All of a sudden he's quiet. Oh, who put Chucky Schumer in the corner? All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
606 oral arguments in that U.S. v. Scametti case, the Tennessee law that bans the mutilation of children. We'll hear from the respective attorneys as well as several Supreme Court justices. Some very interesting arguments offered in the form of questions. That's at 6:06.
Today it's going to be windy, colder, a wind chill of in sub-zeros. It's a high of 28 degrees today. It's now 6 a.m. WIND Chicago.
He's still on the loose 24 hours later. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The masked gunman who murdered United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside a Manhattan hotel.
Every indication is that this was a premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attack.
NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, as the New York Post reports, the killer may have left a message. The words "deny, depose, defend" found written on bullets and shell casings found. Thompson's wife called him a loving father.
She also told NBC News that before the shooting, her husband had received threats related to his job leading America's largest private insurer. And the shooting also comes as Thompson and several other senior executives are reportedly under investigation by the DOJ for selling a combined $101.5 million in shares just 2 weeks before news of a federal antitrust probe went public back in February.
That's Fox's Chanley Painter. Was anti-religious bias a motive in a school shooting in California? That's being investigated while two students, just 5 and 6 years old, remain in extremely critical condition. The gunman apparently killed himself inside the Seventh-day Adventist private school.
This individual came onto campus to meet with the principal to discuss the possibility of enrolling a student.
Butte County Sheriff Corey Honey. The acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe will be questioned this morning by the House Task Force investigating both Trump assassination attempts, with a lot of focus on security failures in the first one that left the president-elect bloodied with a grazed ear. Businessman Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will meet with lawmakers today. President-elect Trump put them in charge of what's called DOGE, aimed at cutting spending, making government more efficient. Republican Congressman Lance Gooden tells Fox,
I'm going to tell Mr. Musk and Ramaswamy that they have our full support. Thank God we've got the majority. We're going to have hearings. We're going to help them out.
Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth vowing not to back down in a Wall Street Journal op-ed, calling himself a fighter amid reports he could be replaced amid sexual misconduct and other allegations. America's listening to Fox News.
"12 degrees with a wind chill of -4 at 6:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. A key manager at the McCormick Place Convention Center in Chicago faces federal fraud charges over allegations of pocketing kickbacks from a company contracted to provide snowplow services at that facility. Federal indictment says Dominic Gironda schemed with an associate to approve inflated invoices for services that were not actually provided at McCormick Place. Chicago Public Schools CEO Pedro Martinez is staying put despite being offered a contract buyout by the Chicago Board of Education. The mayor and CTU are pushing to replace Martinez before a 21-member school board takes office next month. Meantime, Martinez says the potential loss of federal funding for programs at CPS is a big concern.
What is the risk of grants that we have always taken for granted that could be changed in a way that is very negative to our district? And so that is something we're analyzing now.
During last night's school board meeting, CTU Financial Secretary Maria Moreno accused Martinez of dragging his feet during negotiations, but the CFO of the Chicago Public Schools says cash reserves are dangerously low and cannot handle the impact of CTU demand.
We ended fiscal year 24 with $66 million of cash in the bank. So if you look at the size of our budget in fiscal year 25, it was 3 days worth of cash. 3 days.
Published reports now suggest Martinez has hired a law firm to help avoid the city's alleged attempts to fire him or bully him into a resignation. Cook County Medical Examiner is identifying the third person killed in a mass shooting at a house party on Chicago's southwest side. Osmer Uria was one of 8 who were shot. Uria, John Carlos Blancarcer, and Hector Sajo all died from their injuries. One of Michael Madigan's former chiefs of staff has testified at the former Illinois House Speaker's bribery and racketeering trial. Prosecutors now say Illinois U.S. Representative Nikki Budzinski may be called to testify next Monday. And for those of you who enjoy a good draft, one of the oldest brewers in the country will be bringing its beer brands, finally, to Illinois. Yuengling, the oldest operating brewer in the country, will have its products available on draft across the state by the end of January. Blackhawks lost to the Bruins 4-2 at the United Center. Bulls take on San Antonio tonight. College hoops last night. DePaul lost to Texas Tech. UIC crushed by Northern Iowa. The news service of Papa Nicholas Coffee, a Chicagoland tradition for over 5 generations, combining heritage and innovation in every cup. Hot air roasted locally and cold blended in small batches to ensure premium quality. Online at papanicholas.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
November 2nd, 2020, marked the 100th anniversary of the first commercial radio broadcast. We're still here, and we're bigger and better than ever. You can still listen to us over this great radio station, but now there are no limitations. Your smartphone is now your smart radio. Listen to us online on the app, tunein.com, iHeartRadio, and Odyssey.com. Your smart speaker can find us too. With radio, there is no separation anxiety. We're always on. AM 560, The Answer.
If your approach to everyday aches and pains is to mask them, feel better for a few hours only to have the pain return and then repeat the cycle all over again, it's time to try Relief Factor. And the good news is, Relief Factor makes that easy. Their 3-week quick start is just $19.95, less than $1 a day. Instead of masking pain, Relief Factor helps eliminate it. How? Well, its unique formula of ingredients helps support your body's response to inflammation. Relief Factor was developed by doctors. It's 100% drug-free, and for so many people, the results are game-changing, even life-changing. So give it a try. Right now, their 3-week quick start is just $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. See how in a few weeks or even days, Relief Factor can reduce your pain. When you feel better, life is just better. So don't mask pain. Fight it naturally with Relief Factor.
If you're self-employed and purchase your own health insurance, I have some great news. From now until January 15th, the health insurance exchanges are open again. And even if you've never qualified for a health insurance subsidy before, you most likely will now. The American Rescue Plan expanded subsidy eligibility to millions of Americans who have never qualified before, even to those with high income levels. And this year, you can purchase a PPO policy, which includes access to Northwestern Medical Group. Employers who provide small group coverage also have new options, and so do seniors looking for Medicare supplement coverage. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Obamacare, then you need a local expert on your side. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust.
He's a 30-year licensed broker
who's been educating our listeners for more than 10 years. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. 630-674-1551.
6:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of almostfreeteeth.com. What if you could save 90% on average for dental implants and get 100% of your smile back? With a Blue Cross Blue Shield, PPO, or FEP, it's possible. Check if you qualify. Almostfreeteeth.com. Let's get a couple of items out of the way. Southwest side, structure fire, 45th and South California, bottling up that intersection. Manhattan this morning, Will County, fallen tree across the roadway. US 52 and Cedar Road from yesterday's high winds. Just a reminder as well that in LaPorte County in northwest Indiana, there is a winter weather advisory, snow and blowing snow, 3 to 5 inches. And in southwest Michigan, if you're traveling that way, winter storm warning is in effect. 5 to 8 more lake effect inches of snowfall and gusty winds through the evening today. On our roadways, Route 53 northbound at Higgins, report of an accident, and big jam-ups northbound on the Bishop Ford between 115th and the Dan Ryan. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now, your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Windy and colder, bit of sun, but watch out for that bitter cold and a high of 28. Currently 12, a wind chill of -5. And your next news update is at 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. More than half the states in America have laws banning the mutilation of children. But that could change depending on the outcome of the U.S. v. Scrimeti case before the Supreme Court. Oral arguments were yesterday. As you court watchers know, the term ends in June, so it'll be several months at least before you get a decision in this case. But it involves a Tennessee law that does the same, bans the mutilation of children. And a Tennessee mom with a 10-year-old allegedly trans kid is the plaintiff in the case. The ACLU lawyer representing said Tennessee family is a dude.
I know. I saw
a trans individual named Chase Strangio, who's a woman who now is living as a man, who's married to a woman who's like in the art community in New York, I think, who identifies as queer.
Okay.
So just to, for your scorecard, so you've got a woman living as a man who's married to a woman who says she's queer. Okay. Anyway.
I just think she or he should lay off the plastic surgery. It's just my unsolicited advice.
Chase Strangio is one of those people where the voice sort of belies the physical appearance.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say.
It's okay.
This is not yesterday in our arguments, we'll get to that, but this is his view about trans.
I would say is nobody has to provide this medication to adolescents. These are not doctors being forced to provide this medication. These are doctors who are wanting to treat their patients in the best way that they know how, based on the best available evidence to us. And these are young people who may have known since they were 2 years old exactly who they are, who suffered for 6, 7 years before they had any relief. And what's happening here, it's not the kids who are consenting to this treatment, it's the parents who are consenting to the treatment. And as a parent, I would say, when our children are suffering, we are suffering. And these are parents who love their children, who are listening to the advice of their doctors, of the mainstream medical community, and doing what's right for their kids. And the state of Tennessee has displaced their judgment.
That voice you heard belongs to a guy, a person identifying as a man with a beard and a mustache. It's really just something to behold. So 2-year-olds know they're trans.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You could text us on the same line. Dan, we'll start with you. Do you remember anything from when you were 2 years old? Oh, you were probably reading Thomas Sowell back then, but
yeah. I remember toying around with quadratic equations, but
mastering the Rubik's Cube, I'm sure, at the age of 1.
Nothing specific, nothing related to deep thinking about my gender identity.
See, kids think about it because they're forced to think about it through their parents who want attention, who think, oh, look at me. My kid's trans, too. I think a lot of this is attention-seeking parents who need to really think about what they're doing to their children.
By the way, since we were talking about the D.C. press corps in the context of the Hegseth nomination, if you want to see the flip side of this, they're hitmen. They are there to take people down that are opposed to their politics and lift people up, amplify people who are simpatico with their politics. There is this hagiographic write-up masquerading as a news story on this lawyer, Chase Strangio.
Chase, get it right, Dan.
Chase, that is just, over the top, treacly. That is presented as news, and it basically is just it is just so glowing and without any restraint or balance. It's just something. Let me give you. Let's see. If the weight of so much collective anxiety and expectation is taking a toll on Strangio, it doesn't show. Below his slightly mussed hair, the 42-year-old's clear blue eyes were sharp and determined as he spoke with... come on.
That's a love letter. His crystal clear blue eyes
reached
to me.
It really is. It might as well be a sonnet, for goodness sakes. Anyway, okay, so let's get to the substance of the course. Alito and Chase Strangio sparring on the question of whether gender identity is an immutable characteristic. This is important in part because you have KBJ, Ketanji Brown Jackson, making comparisons to interracial marriage, which we'll get to, but Alito and Chase Strangio, and basically, as far as I'm concerned, the case ended with this exchange.
Does the category of does transgender status apply to individuals who are gender fluid?
I think that the distinguishing characteristic is to have a birth sex that does not align with, or a gender that does not align with one's birth sex. So it may include people who have different understandings of their gender identity, but I think it is still the distinguishing characteristic of a birth sex and a gender identity that are incongruent.
Are there individuals who are born male, assigned male at birth, who at one point identify as female, but then later come to identify as male, and likewise for individuals who are assigned female at birth, at some point identify as female, identify as male, but later come to identify as female? Are there not such people?
There are such people. I agree with that, Justice.
So it's not an immutable characteristic, is it?
Well, I think people's understanding of it shifts, but the evidence shows that there is at least a strong underlying basis. And I think the normative reason for that particular consideration is whether or not this is something that someone should or could change and whether they should have to change it in order to receive constitutional protections. And I think transgender status squarely fits within that.
That makes no sense. It's what Chase said. So something that is immutable. Can we just do a textbook definition here? I know Ketanji Brown Jackson struggles with the textbook definition of a woman, so she's going to struggle with this. But immutable means not susceptible to change. So by definition, if you can be a woman at birth and then identify as a man and then decide that you are going back to identifying as a woman, the sex you are, then that's the opposite of immutable. If your race is an immutable characteristic, so is sex. You can identify, you can say you're whatever you want. It doesn't change the underlying reality of what you are when it comes to your sex or your race. So, to me, the case is lost right there.
That was your moment where you thought?
I mean, there were others that sort of pile on, but I don't know how you get around that exchange between Alito and Strangio. There was another, Alito and Prelogar, who is the U.S. Solicitor General, and this was on the scientific evidence, because in the filings that both sides made in court, the federal government made the representation that the overwhelming scientific evidence is in opposition to this Tennessee law and the underlying scientific basis for the law.
Well, there's a lot of talk about the suicide rate, and that if you don't get the operation, does suicide rate increase? If you do get the operation, the suicide rate increases.
Yeah, but it's not even that. It's the yeah, right. Well, I mean, right. I mean, it's that in part. It's the larger discussion of the costs and benefits. The overwhelming scientific evidence is that the benefits outweigh the costs. Is that right? That's not right.
A question about the state of medical evidence at the present time. In your petition, you made a sweeping statement, which I will quote: "Overwhelming evidence establishes that the appropriate gender-affirming treatment with puberty blockers and hormones directly and substantially improves the physical, psychological well-being of transgender adolescents with gender dysphoria." That was in November 2023. Now, even before then, the Swedish National Board of Health and Welfare wrote the following: "They currently assess, quote, that the risks of puberty blockers and gender-affirming treatment are likely to outweigh the expected benefits of these treatments," which is directly contrary to the sweeping statement in your petition. After the filing of your petition, of course, we saw the release of the Cass report in the United Kingdom, which found a complete lack of high-quality evidence showing that the benefits of the treatments in question here outweigh the risks. And so I wonder if you would like to stand by the statement that you made in your petition, or if you think it would now be appropriate to modify that and withdraw the statement that there is overwhelming evidence establishing that these treatments have benefits that greatly outweigh the risks and the dangers.
I, of course, acknowledge, Justice Alito, that there is a lot of debate happening here and abroad about the proper model of delivery of this care and exactly when adolescents should receive it and how to identify the adolescents for whom it would be helpful. But I stand by that there is...
Of course you stand by it.
Of course he does.
He has to stand by it, but it's overwhelming evidence. Well, wait a second. Britain, the Swedes, there's no evidence.
Right.
Oh, but I get that there's some people that say there's no evidence, but I still believe there's overwhelming evidence, and there's some debate happening. You have a number of Scandinavian countries, not just Sweden, in addition to the UK, that have stopped, ceased.
And Brett Kavanaugh,
the puberty blockers and the mutilation, the mutilation surgeries.
And Justice Kavanaugh addressed that.
If it's evolving like that and changing, and England's pulling back and Sweden's pulling back, it strikes me as, pretty heavy yellow light, if not red light, for this court to come in, the 9 of us, and to constitutionalize the whole area when the rest of the world, or at least the people the countries that have been at the forefront of this, are, pumping the brakes on this kind of treatment because of concerns about the risks.
Yeah, you think? But this is what you're dealing with. I mean, you're dealing with ideologues, and fortunately for us, they're not particularly talented. KBJ at the top of the list. Ketanji Brown Jackson had to have the Tennessee Solicitor General, a guy named Matthew Rice, explain to her the difference in impact between giving boys and girls testosterone.
That it operates on the body in the same way. So what's your basis for saying they're not the same?
I don't think it operates on the body in the same way. Take testosterone. If you give a boy with a deficiency testosterone because he has constitutional delayed puberty, that allows him to go through and develop the reproductive organs associated with being a male. If you give it to a girl, it renders the girl infertile. So we have 8 to 12-year-olds being
I'm sorry.
asked.
I thought your reasons for them being different was that you said they were for different purposes. I'd heard you say at the beginning the reason those two are different is because one wants them to transition and the other wants them for some medical purpose.
Well, to go back to my example in the introduction, I don't think anyone would say using morphine to assist suicide is the same treatment as using morphine to manage pain. It's the same drug, just like it's the same drug here, but they're being used for fundamentally different purposes. They have different effects on the body. And once you take out and you recognize medical reality, then there is no argument that our law differentiates between treatments for males and females.
Right. You can understand why KBJ is confused because she doesn't know what a woman is. So she had no idea that testosterone injections would impact girls very differently than boys.
Yeah, it hurts their fertilization process later on in life. Yes.
It is remarkable. And so what do you get when you have no scientific argument, when the science isn't with you
Race.
and the law isn't with you?
You bring in race.
Well, yeah, you get sentimentalism.
Yeah.
False comparisons, or the go-to that this is an oppressed class that is under threat of violence, and so we should just give them whatever they want. We should just abide whatever horrors they say they want to impose on themselves or their kids. We should cheerlead it, in fact. CNN did a little panel. This is sick stuff.
Oh, I saw this with the
CNN panel with like 3 trans kids, quote unquote trans kids. Their moms sitting behind them in the background.
Where
I mean,
the
this is a, the snapshot of sentimental barbarism. And a little boy masquerading as a girl was asked by the monster from CNN why you're afraid to speak out. And this is his answer that has been indoctrinated into him by mom and dad, apparently.
Concerns have you had about speaking out?
That I'm gonna be murdered. One day I'm gonna be walking down the street and somebody's gonna come up and shoot me or something.
That's a really scary thing to be worrying about at 10 years old.
Yeah, that should not be a worry.
And her mom's crying behind her in the background, and her mom should stand up and say, honey, that's not going to happen.
Well,
be the adult. And where are the dads? There's no dads to be found.
Where did that kid come up with this idea that somebody wants to shoot him because he's identifying as a girl?
I'm sure his parents or his mom.
Yeah.
Or maybe teachers at school, or maybe his counselor.
The sickness. This is sick, all of this. And by the way, since the prospect of a detransitioner was invoked implicitly by Alito's question to Chase Strangio, we talk about a woman identifies as a man, then decides to go back to being a woman, not immutable. I mean, let's remember the stories that you won't hear on CNN and MSNBC that do not get platform by the D.C. press corps. And also, and we'll talk to Elizabeth Bialik a little bit later in the show on this, but, why you wouldn't want to tell these stories. You could tell the stories. I mean, the CNN stories. We can have the full debate. I'm happy for the full debate. And let's probe. Let's not just platform sophistry. Let's probe. But they purposely exclude these horror stories that are not invented. This is not the product of some right-wing media initiative. These are individuals, young people who've come forward to tell their stories as a cautionary tale to others. So why wouldn't adults want to know this? Do these parents who parade their kids on CNN and MSNBC for political reasons, have they heard these detransitioner stories? Wouldn't you like to get reaction from them to these stories?
Yeah, why wasn't Chloe Cole on CNN yesterday?
Here is another one, in addition to some of the more high profile, like Chloe Cole. Here's someone else who testified, I think it was last year in New Hampshire, over legislation, basically Parents' Bill of Rights legislation. And her story. I think this was a girl who then identified as a man and got the mutilation surgeries and not happy. Her name is Katie Lennon from Lowell, Massachusetts.
I'm a detransitioner, and I live in Lowell, but I work, worship, and do business in Nashua, and so I'm an active community member of the 603, and I'm here in support of SB 272 today. So like many children and teens today, I identified myself as transgender for years, and when I started to feel confused and ashamed about my developing body, I asked everyone in my life to call me by a new name and use male pronouns to refer to me. So in other words, I went through a social transition from female to male. Everyone in my life immediately affirmed my new identity, either out of full support for it or just to stay neutral and not cause any issues. But the constant affirmation, both active and passive, solidified me in my transgender identity. No one meant to lock me into an identity that would later leave me broken, ashamed, and more confused than before. They were really all just being nice. But the social transition eventually wasn't enough, and I soon felt I needed to take testosterone. And when that wasn't enough, I had a double mastectomy. And when that still wasn't enough, I had a total hysterectomy, including the removal of my uterus, cervix, fallopian tubes, and both ovaries. There's no point of contentment during a gender transition. We get fleeting moments of euphoria, but ultimately one step leads straight into the next. And I thought that in the end I could really become a man, but all I became was a mutilated and abused version of my old self. Social transition is a big deal, and we're lying when we say that any of this is reversible.
I feel sick to my stomach.
Sean and Darian, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, there's no greater crime than harming children. So I propose that we take these evil parents and these evil doctors, put them on a decommissioned warship, send them out to the middle of the ocean, send over several fighter jets, bomb them straight to HELL where they belong. And I would love to work for Trump and his cabinet. If you want to pass off my information, I'll get a resume together. Thanks.
That's not the solution.
I don't think that confirmation hearing would go great for you, Sean.
I mean, if you want to transition, that's mutilate yourself, anything, elective surgery, whatever you want to call it, after 18, after you're an adult, that's your decision. But when they're children, because if all the women out there that when you go through puberty, you do not want to have that monthly problem, and you would do anything to make it go away. So, and then if you have parents and teachers that are saying, "Oh, maybe you are a boy," I mean, that's what has to stop, because it's irreversible. She's never going to get her ovaries back. Lennon, the woman, the detransitioner you just played, or a hysterectomy that it's taking out her cervix and her. Oh my God, she's never going to be a woman again. She'll never be able to have children.
At 6:36, a little bit more on this because over at Downers Grove.
Oh no.
Downers Grove, the small minds of small-town politics have reared their identitarian heads again, starting with Leslie Sadowski Fugit.
Oh, she's back.
Fugit is back in Downers Grove, and she gave me a shout-out.
Oh, Oh.
We'll hear what she had to say over the latest library controversy in Downers Grove. And it relates to this identitarian gender identity politics, because that's what Leslie Sadowski Fugit is focused on 24/7.
I can't wait to hear this. But now first we have to stop into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
12 degrees at 6:32. The search goes on for the man who gunned down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Our reporter Sarah Lee Kessler is in New York.
Brian Thompson, who'd been at the helm of United Healthcare since 2021, had spent most of his career with the company. He began at the healthcare giant working on mergers and acquisitions. Thompson graduated from the University of Iowa in 1997 with a bachelor's degree in business administration and accounting, and worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers as a CPA before joining United Healthcare in 2004. Thompson was married and had 2 children. The company has issued a statement calling him a highly respected colleague and friend to all who worked with him. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
Investigators say while a motive isn't clear, they believe Thompson was targeted. The Supreme Court appears inclined to uphold a Tennessee law banning transgender care for minors. The High Court heard arguments Wednesday on the Tennessee ban.
This case is about access to medications that have been safely prescribed for decades to treat many conditions, including gender dysphoria.
That's U.S. Solicitor General Elizabeth Prologer, whose arguments were strongly challenged by a majority of the court. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee signed that bill.
We really should not be performing life-altering, permanent procedures on children that have such enormous implications for their life.
Lee says much more medical research on the procedures are needed, but the benefits of the bill outweigh other considerations. A bit of a political earthquake overnight in Michigan. Detroit Mayor Mike Dugan will run for governor in 2026 as an independent. Zach Gorchow says he was shocked that Dugan wouldn't run as a Democrat and believes the implications for the state are huge.
It's definitely going to force a real reckoning, I think, on the Democratic side, because now they're faced with the prospect of an independent Mike Duggan being on the November ballot.
Duggan has served as Detroit's mayor as a Democrat, but thinks he'll be much more successful without any party labels. In fact, Ford Motor Company issued an endorsement of Duggan a few hours after his announcement. In case you're wondering, the last time someone who wasn't a Democrat or Republican was governor in Michigan, 1841. The man accused of the shooting death of an Oak Park officer is due in court today. Detective Alan Reddens was shot and killed last Friday when confronting a man who had left a bank nearby with a gun. 37-year-old Gerald Thomas of Chicago faces first-degree murder charges along with attempted murder of a peace officer. Chicago Public Schools CEO Pedro Martinez is staying put despite being offered a contract buyout by the Chicago Board of Education. Meantime, tensions are high as contract talks continue between CPS and the teachers union. Martinez says one of the big concerns now is the potential loss of federal funding.
What is the risk of grants that we have always taken for granted that could be changed in a way that is very negative to our district? And so that is something we're analyzing now.
During last night's school board meeting, the CFO of the Chicago Public Schools says cash reserves are dangerously low and cannot handle the impact of CTU demands. Indiana State Police are reminding drivers that decorating their vehicles with Christmas lights is illegal. Troopers say doing so can result in a $500 fine. State Police Sergeant Ted Bonner tells us they want everyone to be safe, but allegations posted on Facebook that Indiana State Police are acting like Grinches patrolling through Whoville and destroying the holiday are not the case. Blackhawks 4-2 losers to the Bruins. Bulls take on San Antonio tonight. Thursday night football, Packers and Lions in an NFC North showdown. The news service of Valdecast Windows for the discerning homeowner looking for high-quality and professional-level window replacement service. Contact Valdecast Windows, your award-winning Platinum Elite Pella certified contractor, Valdecast.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows, and doors to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio every Sunday morning at 9. Presented by Lang Home Medical Equipment, Executive Green Carpet Cleaning, and by Valdecast Windows and Doors. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about your home improvement. Right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Amy Jacobson and Dan Proft here, and we want to tell you about our 2024 Food for the Poor campaign.
If you've listened to the station and to our show for any length of time, then you already know about Food for the Poor. They're a nonprofit, faith-based organization that provides food, water, medicine, clothing, and life-saving supplies directly to local partners in Latin America and the Caribbean.
We all know how bad the situation is right now in Latin America and the Caribbean.
For many families, the cost of food has simply become prohibitive, leading to sickness and starvation.
The only thing standing between these families and starvation is Food for the Poor. But in order to get this food to those who need it most, Food for the Poor needs your help. Your one-time gift of just $50 can provide life-saving food for a child for an entire year and provide their community with access to water.
To give a gift of any amount, just call 844-862-4673. That's 844-862-4673.
Or you can visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor or just click on the Give Life banner.
This is Albert Mohler for townhall.com. The culture of death scored big last week as the British Parliament voted to forward a bill that will legalize what is called assisted death in England and Wales. The legislative move sets the stage for negotiations over a final form of the bill, but the velocity of Britain's slide into the list of nations that enable and encourage their citizens to end their own lives, well, that's now already evident. How did this happen? The move to legalize assisted death can succeed only when certain moral absolutes are undermined, and those moral absolutes rest on explicitly Christian foundations. The most crucial of these foundations is the knowledge that life is a precious gift granted by the Creator, who alone holds the power to give and to take life. The culture of death scored big in Britain last week, and its deadly logic is almost certain to spread. This is a horrifying rejection of Christian conscience and biblical truth. Then again, a secular morality simply cannot sustain an ethic of life.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world, one life at a time.
I'm Rick. I'm in the best shape of my life. I play a lot of golf. I work out and ride my bike. I'm 63 and I can still almost hit a golf ball 300 yards. I mean, when I'm in the gym, I can do 90-pound dumbbells. That's what I did when I was young. As long as I'm living, I'll keep taking my Balance of Nature because it makes a big difference.
Everything about your product is 100%. I look forward to it. I'll put it that way. I'm 71 years old. Balance of Nature is the absolute best product. I love your product. And you guys, when I call you on the phone, you're the best. So I'm very grateful.
Merry Christmas. This season, be part of the cheer and save big with our exclusive Christmas deal. Go to balanceofnature.com and get 50% off your first preferred set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee as a new preferred customer by using discount code CHICAGO.
6:40. Let's check the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And this update is a service of Staples stores, from custom holiday cards and photo gifts to laptops and gaming systems, even shipping solutions. Now save $350 on select computers. In-store only. Offer ends 12/28. Unwrap huge holiday savings at Staples. Let's start on the interior expressways. 1 hour in, O'Hare into the Burn Circle interchange. 45 in on the Ike. 390 to the old post office. Stevenson, an accident, left lane blocked on the outbound side between the Tri-State and St. Charles. Dan Ryan, 19 minutes, 95th into the Burn Circle interchange. On the near north side, report of an accident, Clark and Division. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Windy and colder with some sun and bitter cold. High of 28, clear and cold, low 16 overnight. Partly cloudy and 12 right now with a wind chill of -6. Your next news update is at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. This past spring, we brought you the story of the controversy on the Downers Grove Library Board. But I know if you are not familiar with the story or don't remember it, it sounds like this would be a mundane thing.
Oh, it's anything but.
It's not, because it's not just about Downers Grove. It's about what's happened to DuPage County and what's happened to the suburbs around Chicago and so many well-to-do suburbs around metropolitan centers in the country. Overrun by shrill, ill-tempered, ignorant Raffles, rich, angry, white leftist females like Leslie Sadowski Fugit, who's a village board member in Downers Grove, and soy boys, spineless, ballless soy boys like that Greg Jose, who's on the Downers Grove Village Board. So many examples. A lot of Republicans, too, by the way. It's an explanation of what happened. What happened to DuPage County? What happened to Downers Grove? What happened to Glen Ellen? This is what happened. This story. So let us take you back. Because the controversy was about this guy named Bill Nienberg. He's a volunteer on the frickin' local library board. And he gets bounced because he didn't want to support, a drag queen bingo at the library and fall in line with the cultural zeitgeist, the identitarian, grotesque cultural zeitgeist in the suburbs these days. When the issue was before the village council whether to remove her or not, he was not in town. He came on the show and we talked to him about it.
Georgia Tech alum, by the way.
Oh, there you go.
Had to shout that out. Smart guy.
Nienberg's brother-in-law read a statement at that board meeting back in the spring when this was in controversy.
Tonight's vote is without a shred of due process. The board censure was a blindside attack on me orchestrated to happen when I was out of town and could not defend it. The only steps to open a dialogue with council have only been the ones that I've been initiated. I haven't had and apparently won't have any official audience with the council. But you either are content to say that that doesn't apply, or you're willing to admit it just doesn't matter. Cherish standards like facing your accuser, defending charges against you, innocent until proven guilty, not to mention free speech, are all the real casualties here. The residents of Downers Grove who want to see a disciplined, fiscally responsible, and centered library where they can safely and confidently bring their children without worrying what they will be exposed to are being abandoned. The latest activist programming will replace my push for innovation to keep our library relevant in a changing world. Council, you're about to engage in a complete miscarriage of justice.
And so they did. I mean, he was the lone voice on the library board, and there's a couple of other sensible people on the village board, Martin Tully, but they're outnumbered too, if I recall. This was Leslie Sadowski Fugit at the time. And as she discusses how the removal of this individual from the library board, nothing to do with politics. Listen to the audience's reaction.
Because this has nothing to do with political affiliations and everything
please
to
point
deal
of order. Come on, please,
with
folks, come on.
dangerous extremism that is taking hold not just here in
Extremism.
Downers Grove or the western suburbs, but the
Wow.
entirety of the country. And I understand that may mean upsetting some of our base, but in reality, we need to be acting on behalf of the whole community's interests. In fact, I talk to my conservative neighbors, I'm sure everybody is shocked, all the time at the bus stop, walking around, about the library. And I haven't met one that for the life of them can understand why there is a contingent of people who do not patronize the library and yet have a lot of feelings about what it should and shouldn't be. While my neighbors may not have understood drag queen bingo, and they didn't, they recognized that it was an event that was for them. and they believe that it must have held value for some and simply chose not to attend. An event, I might add, and has been repeated here today, that Trustee Nienberg said was not the best of what we had to offer.
I mean, she's almost a cartoon character, but you don't have to patronize something to have an opinion on it, number one. And number two, when you're paying for it, you're damn well entitled to have an opinion on it.
Yeah, your tax dollars are paying for it. Yeah.
Trustee Sadowski-Fugit. That's number one. So now fast forward to the board meeting just the other night, Tuesday night.
Uh-oh.
There's a discussion to put a ballot question on the spring ballot that would have Downers Grove residents vote on whether or not library board trustees would be appointed or elected. And this is in controversy. And so Leslie Sadowski-Fugit weighs in on this, not on the merits of election versus appointment, sort of a secondary issue, but going back to the spring and when this became a high-profile matter, thanks in large part to our show, some of the messages she received and how aggrieved library staff in Downers Grove were, and whose fault it is.
And I think it's important that everybody in this room hears some of the things that have happened at the Library Board of Trustees. So both at some of those meetings and here in Village Council meetings, we've heard things like, stop displaying LGBTQ flyers in an attempt to force people to validate sinful lifestyles as normal. Stop accosting us with LGBTQ hosts at the library entrance during Pride Month. No, thank you. This program promotes disturbing, unhealthy ideologies. And though we applaud you for canceling the children's drag queen show, which is not what it was, we cannot forgive you for your failure to exercise good judgment. Failure to distinguish between good and evil. Failure to distinguish between right and wrong. This is grooming. I was told in one email that I supported child abuse because I support LGBTQ individuals.
She's the type of, again, ill-tempered, low IQ, low emotional IQ person that is always on the verge of hyperventilating. She's always just on the verge of hyperventilating. She's outraged. I mean, you can hear it bubbling up in her. It's so terrible. And then she went on to play some profanity-laced voicemail she received and play a snippet from some podcast of some person who's apparently considering running for office or who makes public comments or so forth. She is a victim, but it's not about her. She's representing how library staff has been victimized. She's their great protector. Have you ever seen this routine before from one of these leftist apparatchiks?
Library staff have indicated that they're afraid to walk to their cars at night and request security to walk them.
Really? Okay.
Jeff
Sure.
Kaluly's hanging out in the library parking lot in Downers Grove.
And then she, continues her full Festivus with calling out two members of the village board who have not comforted her in these difficult times, and then reserves a special shout out for me.
Oh.
This is the type of language that our library staff, our library trustees, and myself have endured. And in fact, I emailed that voicemail to each of my colleagues, and I received a few lovely comments. But I would really like to hear Commissioner Tully and Mayor Barnett how you feel about the people of your community being treated this way. Because I haven't heard anything from either of you yet.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a sickness.
And I'm not done yet. First, a real shout out to Dan Proft, who incited a lot of these tweets. Speaking of political, the man who lives in Florida but likes to fund a lot of our hyper-partisan candidates in Illinois, who is behind a lot of the push for us to do this. But again, I don't share this for myself.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line and text line.
Bad boy Dan Proft.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things here. One, I mean, the shaming of Mayor Barnett and Trustee Tully for not rallying to immediately comfort her after sending a voicemail that she received that was profanity-laced. First of all, never on this show, never have I suggested that anybody communicate in a threatening or vulgar way to Leslie Sadowski Fugit or anybody else. It's not what we do. It's not what I do. Is there ad hominem? Do I make fun of people, ridicule somebody like Leslie Sadowski Fugit? Absolutely. And it's imperative that we do. It's imperative that we do with respect to anyone and everyone who has that ruling class mentality, as I've said many times before, including when it's Republicans that we're ridiculing, or even Trump. It is important. It is the quote-unquote name-calling. Oh, it's so uncivil. It reminds people that our elected officials are not our betters. They are temporary representatives. It's good to remind both us and them of that reality. That's number one. Nobody's beyond reproach, especially someone like Leslie Sadowski, if you could. But nobody is platforming or suggesting profanity-laced, threatening. That's nonsense. Secondly, just on that, before we even get to, just how disingenuous she is, how weak intellectually she is. On this whole matter of trans, since this is part of that Supreme Court case too, J.K. Rowling responding to a New York Times piece on the whole trans issue. And she focuses on the New York Times for downplaying and dismissing the threats of violence she's received because she's dared to speak out that men can't be women and women can't be men. She writes, opponents of gender ideology haven't merely endured unsparing criticism. I haven't simply been told I betrayed real feminism, quote unquote, or received a few book burning videos. I've been sent thousands of threats of murder, rape, and violence. A trans woman posted my family's home address with a bomb-making guide. My eldest child was targeted by a prominent trans activist who attempted to dox her, ended up doxing the wrong young woman. I could write a 20,000-word essay on what the consequences have been to me and my family, and what we've endured is nothing compared to the harm done to others. That's just the start of it. So spare me this business of there's extremists on one side because you received, and you shouldn't have, some vulgar emails or some vulgar voicemails. This is across the board.
Yep.
And nobody is endorsing it. Certainly I'm not, and we're not. Pointed, yes. Substantive, yes. Ridicule, sure. Threats, no. Profanity, vulgarity, making it personal, leaving messages or accosting people in public, no. So just spare me the aggrieved, heroic public official routine, Leslie Sadowski Fugit. You're a disgrace. You're a disgrace to just intelligent people across the political spectrum who I think still reside in Downers Grove. I don't know anymore, frankly. To offer such specious arguments. By the way, just the other matter, briefly, I fund hyper-partisan candidates in elections and so on and so forth. I mean, good grief. First of all, you're all politicians. You've all run for office. Secondly, that Greg Jose guy, I think he was a Democrat committeeman for Downers Grove Township, sitting on your board. Thirdly, what is hyper-partisan? I guess it's providing support for a Republican candidate. So because I ran a PAC that provided support for the Republican candidate for governor, I'm a hyper-partisan. Governor Pritzker is spending $150 million of his own money to support his candidacy, spending tens of millions more to support legislative candidates, to support Supreme Court candidates. That's not hyper-partisan? So electoral competition is hyper-partisan if you're not on the side that Leslie Sadowski Fugit is on. The quality of the argument, that is grade school level. Aren't you embarrassed, Downers Grove, to have somebody who's so dumb, childish, intellectually bereft on your village board And she's the leading light of the left, I assume, in Downers Grove. She certainly puts on as she is.
Got a text.
This is
sorry.
DuPage County is rotten. Rotten with Leslie Sadowski-Fugits. But who stands up to them? The same conversation we have all the time. Other than the hey, now let's all be civil. That's not standing up. That's not calling out. That's not doing the proper intellectual takedown of these barbarians. And that's what she is. She is a sentimental barbarian. She is a goon. She is a thug. Just like some ape teamster or something that tries to push people around physically and can barely utter a complete thought. That's Leslie Sadowski-Fugits is just a dressed-up version of that.
Got a text message. Dan and Amy, library staff are afraid to walk to their cars because of all the homeless people and drug addicts that they let hang around in and around the library.
I mean, does anybody have any stones in that town or DuPage County? Matt in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yes, here I am, a man going to my men's Bible study in the Deep South in Birmingham, listen to the schadenfreude that is Illinois politics. And I got to tell you, these people don't understand that we react to the actions they have taken, and they've taken those actions for virtually no reason whatsoever. And yet somehow our reaction makes us the bad people. I just don't get the thinking with any of these folks. And I got to tell you, Geneva, St. Charles, Batavia are full of these folks.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. We're talking about that Geneva Village trustee that's targeting local businesses because they supported Trump or were perceived to support Trump. That's what I'm saying. It is rotten with these people because nobody stands up to them.
And
Such a sad
desperate.
commentary.
Well, and they're feeling desperate right now, too, because their candidate lost. And that loss got destroyed.
And as we extend to all of our detractors and to all of these outspoken, rough and tumble leftists they like to think, come on the show. We'll hash it out.
I'd love to have Leslie call in.
Open invitation. Coming up at 7:07, we'll turn our attention to Hunter Biden pardon fallout with John Hendrick from Powerline, powerlineblog.com, 7:07.
Today it's going to be windy, colder with some sun, but wind chills in the near 12 below. It's now 7 a.m. WIND Chicago.
They still haven't found the killer. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, but there is new evidence amid the manhunt for the masked gunman who murdered United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside a New York City hotel. Police may have his DNA in trash found in a Starbucks and...
According to the New York Post, quote, the NYPD is investigating the possible message, which appears to include the words deny, depose, and defend, written on live rounds and shell casings left behind by the masked assassin. Those reported words eerily similar to the name of this book, Delay, Deny, Defend, which is about how insurance companies deny valid claims for profit.
That's Fox's Jan Lee Painter. Investigators in Butte County, California, are looking into a possible anti-religion motive in a school shooting yesterday that's left two kindergartners, aged 5 and 6, in extremely critical condition. The gunman apparently killed himself right after inside the Seventh-day Adventist private school. The acting Secret Service Director, Ronald Rowe, will testify at the House next hour.
He's going to answer questions about the assassination attempt against President Trump on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania. Now, Rowe will say in his opening statement that he is responding to the abject failures of the Secret Service. He said that they did not adequately secure the Butler Farm Show site.
That's Fox's Brooke Singman. That House task force may also ask Rowe about the second attempt thwarted with the arrest of a potential assassin on a Trump golf course in Florida. Also at the Capitol today, meeting with lawmakers, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Fox's Lucas Tomlinson reports.
The two men lead what is being called the Department of Government Efficiency, a.k.a. DOGE. Yesterday at the Aspen Security Forum, Ramaswamy told Axios DOGE not planning cuts to Social Security and Medicare. And then Ramaswamy said the following about those entitlement payments.
That's a policy decision. That belongs to the voters.
Israel accused of genocide in Gaza again, this time from Amnesty International. Israel calls the report false. America's listening to Fox News. 12 degrees above, That's 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. The man accused of in the shooting death of an Oak Park police officer is due in court today. Detective Alan Reddens was shot and killed last Friday. 37-year-old Jarrell Thomas of Chicago faces first-degree murder charges. A key manager at McCormick Place at the Convention Center faces federal fraud charges over allegations of pocketing kickbacks from a company contracted to provide snowplow services at that facility. Federal indictment says Dominic Gironda schemed with an associate to approve inflated invoices. Prosecutors allege Gironda approved the cash that was then kicked back to an associate, who then passed some or all of that money back to Gironda. Published reports suggest CPS CEO Pedro Martinez has hired a law firm to help avoid the city's alleged attempts to fire him or bully him into a resignation. Last night, board members accused Martinez of dragging his heels during contract negotiations with the Chicago Teachers Union.
The board to play a more.
Meantime, an investigation is underway after a homeless encampment in suburban Elgin caught fire. The blaze started last night near North State and Kimball Streets. Residents are now banding together to help those left out in the cold.
I just wanted to help. I knew I had something that could maybe make a person warm, and posted on my page. I've already got people messaging me. Things are going to be dropped off here tomorrow. I'm going to be dropping things off.
Authorities are also investigating a deadly shooting on Chicago's far south side. 2 men were inside a vehicle last night near 118th and Watkins. When they were shot, one of the victims died at a nearby hospital. On a windy night with sub-freezing temps in Calumet City, city council members gathered on the steps at City Hall for a brief but impactful meeting after they were locked out of the building.
Item number 2 is a motion to direct the city attorney to dismiss case number 21CH5512. All in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Calumet City Mayor Thaddeus Jones explained in an email the building was shut down due to unforeseen emergency circumstances, but his challenger in the upcoming election cycle sees it differently.
I think the lawsuit was BS to begin with, and that's why I put together this meeting to dismiss the lawsuit.
Mayor Jones's administration filed against City Clerk Nyota Figgs 3 years ago when an audit accused her of destroying some documents in that case. Blackhawks lost to Boston 4-2. The Bulls take on San Antonio tonight. The Bears dealing with a number of injuries on offense as they practiced yesterday, including wide receivers DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. The news service of Trim Light Chicago, and a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Get ready for a musical journey like no other when the Trans-Siberian Orchestra returns to Chicago on December 23rd on their Lost Christmas Tour 2024. AM 560 is giving away tickets. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/Christmas. Don't miss the Trans-Siberian Orchestra at the All-State Arena. Go to 560theanswer.com/Christmas.
Amy Jacobson and Dan Proft here, and we want to tell you about our 2024 Food for the Poor campaign.
If you've listened to the station and to our show for any length of time, then you already know about Food for the Poor. They're a nonprofit, faith-based organization that provides food, water, medicine, clothing, and life-saving supplies directly to local partners in Latin America and the Caribbean.
We all know how bad the situation is right now in Latin America and the Caribbean.
For many families, the cost of food has simply become prohibitive, leading to sickness and starvation.
The only thing standing between these families and starvation is Food for the Poor. But in order to get this food to those who need it most, Food for the Poor needs your help. Your one-time gift of just $50 can provide life-saving food for a child for an entire year and provide their community with access to water.
To give a gift of any amount, just call 844-862-4673. That's 844-862-4673. 4673.
Or you can visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor or just click on the Give Life banner.
If your approach to everyday aches and pains is to mask them, feel better for a few hours only to have the pain return and then repeat the cycle all over again, it's time to try Relief Factor. And the good news is Relief Factor makes that easy. Their 3-week quick start is just $19.95, less than $1 a day. Instead of masking pain, Relief Factor helps eliminate it. How? Well, its unique formula of ingredients helps support your body's response to inflammation. Relief Factor was developed by doctors. It's 100% drug-free, and for so many people, the results are game-changing, even life-changing. So give it a try. Right now, their 3-week quick start is just $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. See how in a few weeks or even days, Relief Factor can reduce your pain. When you feel better, life is just better. So don't mask pain. Fight it naturally with Relief Factor.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. They're a bank with roots right here in Chicago, and their decisions are made locally too. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Mick O'Rourke, President and CEO of Signature Bank. We'd like to wish you happy holidays from our Signature Bank family to your family.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality this holiday season. Visit signaturebank.bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. You have a true partnership with a team that is invested in your success. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Kevin Bastuga, co-founder of Signature Bank. There's no better place to be for the holidays than Chicago. Signature Bank is wishing you a safe, healthy, and happy holiday season.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality this holiday season. Visit signaturebank.bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
7:08, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of Trim Lights Chicago. You've got to see it to believe it. Amazing, customizable, and permanent holiday and year-round accent lighting for the exterior of your home or business. It's not too late to book your holiday installation, but do it today with Trim Lights Chicago. Jane Addams, an accident on I-90 northbound at Randall Road this morning. Problems as you travel on the southwest side, 45th in California in the city of Chicago, a fatal structure fire investigation there. Accident with injuries in Countryside, 55th at East Avenue. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Clouds and sun, windy, cold day today. Dress warm. High today only 28. It'll be clear and cold tonight, low 16. Partly sunny, brisk and cold tomorrow, the high 30. And then clouds and sun, breezy on Saturday, the high 41. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
12 and partly cloudy at O'Hare with a wind chill of -6. Your next news update, 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Well, Chuck Todd is mad at Joe Biden, and Tim Kaine is mad at Joe Biden. And now those soy boys who do that Pod Save America and used to write the bilge that Obama spewed, they're mad at Joe Biden, too. Here's Tommy Vietor.
President Biden lied and repeatedly lied and said he wouldn't pardon Hunter or commute a sentence. He had his press secretary lie on his behalf. Biden's supporters held up Joe Biden's refusal to pardon Hunter as an example of his commitment to the rule of law in contrast with Trump. But NBC News reported that when they decided to put this out there and say that that Biden wasn't going to pardon his son, actually Biden and his top aides knew that it was still an open question. And so now everyone looks stupid. Everyone looks like they're full of shit. And Republicans are going to use this to argue that it was politics as usual when Democrats warned about Trump's corruption or threat to the rule of law or the threat to democracy. And I think that's the piece of this I am most frustrated with, which is Joe Biden looking like a typical lying politician. And I think that leads to a cynical feeling that all politicians are bad and they're all the same and that this is just par for the course. And so I'm not really worried that.
Yeah. You're supposed to, be better at lying than Joe Biden turned out to be, which is, why for 40 years they tried to keep him on the sidelines as his presidential ambitions far outstripped his capacities. But, 2020 happened and he drew an inside straight. What are you going to do? Now we're here where you're making the people who think they're the smartest guys in the room look like they're stupid and full of bull jive, which of course they are. By the way, it doesn't sound like we're done with making people like those Obama soy boys look stupid and full of bull jive, because there's talk of preemptive pardons for Tony Fauci.
Oh, yeah.
Adam Schiff. Maybe others.
Maybe Biden himself.
Liz Cheney.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's the one. Yeah.
I saw even this morning that Jesse Jackson Sr., not a reverend, is asking Biden to pardon Jesse Jackson Jr.
Well, everyone's. He's going to pardon his own son. I mean, listen,
get in line.
They almost did a coup d'etat on Biden. They blindsided him, and so he's taking it all down with him. Screw it.
Lie, though. Boy, for Obama flax to suggest Joe Biden is lying. Ouch. Harsh. For more on all this, we're pleased to be joined by John Hinderaker, president of the Center for the American Experiment, contributor to Powerline, powerlineblog.com. John, thank you as always.
Hey, great to be with you, Dan.
So, how about those pardons that may still be in the offing in addition to the controversy swirling around the Hunter one?
Well, I don't know, Dan. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see a whole lineup of future pardons coming. There haven't been criminal charges actually brought against the people that you just mentioned. I mean, Hunter was in a completely different category, not just because he's Joe's son, but he was actually convicted, by a jury and has pled guilty, and he needs a pardon. And there are several elements of this that I find ironic, Dad. I mean, one of them is the pretense that just now, only now, has Joe Biden been revealed as a liar, right?
Yes. Shocking.
Okay. Yeah, shocking, right? His entire career has been corrupt. But the other thing, this story has been frustrating me for how many years now have we been hearing about Hunter Biden? And the thing that I've been saying over and over again all this time is that there's nothing about this story that is really about Hunter. The press dutifully will talk about Hunter's overseas business interests and his foreign business deals and so on. Well, what business was Hunter Biden ever in? He was never in business. He never was associated with a company that manufactured a product or that provided services. The only service that Hunter Biden ever dealt in was the service of getting access to Joe Biden when he was the vice president. And Reuters thought he had some kind of influence. Influence peddling was the only business that Hunter ever was engaged in, and the influence wasn't Hunter's. He was a nobody. The influence was Joe's. And the story here is that Joe Biden is an unbelievably corrupt politician who pulled in, we know of at least about $24 million. The Joe Biden, not Hunter, Joe Biden pulled in for himself and various family members.
Well, that's the various family members you mentioned. I mean, that's, maybe I can see where he wouldn't do anything preemptory with Fauci and Schiff and some of the others, if for no other reason than if the Trump Justice Department did go after them legitimately, they could still claim lawfare and all that. And so maybe that serves them politically in some way. But for the family members, it's not just Hunter. Those IRS whistleblowers, Shapley and Ziegler, they talked about family members. And so I wouldn't think that, for example, brother Jim is out of the woods, and maybe some other Biden family members that were beneficiaries of Hunter's foreign affairs. So maybe there is still more family business to tend to.
I don't know, Dan. I doubt it. I think, well, for one thing, I don't know what the statute of limitations is on these various crimes. It was running on Hunter, right? a lot of the worst things that Hunter did, the statute of limitations had gone by the time he actually got charged with anything. I just don't know whether Jim Biden is exposed at this point or not. I mean, I think one of Biden's granddaughters got money put into her checking account.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, well,
everybody gets a taste.
I don't think that the Trump DOJ though is going to be going after those family members. I'd be surprised.
Well, do you think President Biden will pardon himself on the way out, along with Liz Cheney, Dr. Fauci, and others?
I doubt it. I mean, the idea of a president pardoning himself, nobody really knows. Does that work? We're in uncharted territory here. He might do those things, but honestly, I doubt it. I don't think that he believes that he is in that kind of peril, or that Anthony Fauci is in that kind of peril. I'd be surprised if we see, we may see some more controversial pardons, I mean, like the Mark Rich sort and others that Bill Clinton did. I don't think we're going to be seeing anything at that level.
Okay, we shall see.
It's a crazy election cycle, though, so anything's possible.
Pete Hegseth finally came out fighting yesterday after a sit-down with Trump, he reportedly, per his conversation with Megyn Kelly, that Trump is still backing him, and it's time to punch back against the D.C. press corps and these slime merchants. And it seems like, I know there's some wobbly Republican senators, and it's the usual suspects, but it seems like Hegseth and his surrogates now unleashed could put him back on stable ground in terms of the probability of confirmation. What do you think?
Well, I sure hope so, Dan. Pete is a friend of mine, first of all. He's from my state of Minnesota. And everything we're talking about here, number one, it's all anonymous accusations. Nobody has come forward publicly and actually said any of these things, let alone testified to them in front of a Senate committee. And number two, Lindsey Graham flip-flopped in the matter of about 4 hours. He was quoted yesterday as saying that these allegations are deeply troubling, and people took that as really a nail in the coffin. But then he turned around last night and he said, no, these are anonymous accusations having to do with Hegseth's personal life, and anonymous accusations don't count. So, I guess we're looking at Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. There are rumors that Joni Ernst might want the job herself, might not vote for Pete. I don't know. But what my own opinion, Dan, is that every Republican senator should vote for all of these Trump nominees, just like in 2021, every Democrat senator voted for every nominee that Joe Biden put forward.
The matter of the Trump administration coming into focus, I mean, this is a perfect segue. Are you, just setting aside, yes, this is the team Trump wants, and so Republicans should fall in line and support these identified team members. But are you excited about the team that Trump has put together, and when comparing it to, say, the team he put together in 2017?
Well, I am, Dan, for a couple of reasons. Number one, I like the nominees, and Pete Hegseth is a good example of that. But number two, I like the fact that Trump has a team. In his first term, it took him half the term to get his administration staff. Mm-hmm. This time, he understands the urgency of getting his team in place. He has way more contacts, just knows a lot more people than he did 8 years ago, and so I'm just delighted to see that he's getting the administration staff, that they're going to hit the ground on January 20th. And I like his choices. There's a few of them you could quarrel with, but I think Hegseth is a pretty good example. He's not being selected as Secretary of Defense because he's the world's greatest bureaucrat, to run one of the biggest agencies anywhere in the world. They'll probably appoint a couple of undersecretary bean counters, to look after the $840 billion. But we have a crisis going on with wokeness in the military. Pete Hegseth actually wrote a book about how wokeness is damaging the military, and recruitment. Recruitment is at unsustainable levels. And so my hope is that a guy like Pete, who's young, who himself is a war hero, who's charismatic, is going to be the face of the Defense Department and is going to be the recruiter-in-chief, telling young people, hey, it's safe to enlist now. The Army's under new management. So, I like a lot of these picks, and I'm delighted to see that he's making them.
So you're up there in Minnesota, as you mentioned. Have you brought donuts and coffee over to Tim Walz's house and check in on him, see how he's doing?
$17,000 a month because the governor's mansion is under construction.
Yeah. Oh, man. So Tim Walz embarrassed himself on the national stage, but you don't see acknowledgement of that in the press here in Minnesota. It's kind of comical. I mean, the Star Tribune, which is the dominant newspaper in the state, is now run by a former member of the Tim Walz administration, one of his cabinet officers, and you know, they talk as though Walz had acquitted himself honorably and did a terrific job. And there's talk of Walz maybe running for a third term in 2026, which he's eligible to do. I think he's wounded. I think he's damaged. My organization actually just polled some things about the election. One of the questions we asked is, did Walz being on the ticket make you more likely or less likely to vote for Kamala Harris? It was 23% more likely, 24% less likely, the rest don't care. So, you know, that's not any kind of a big outpouring of support for Tim Walz.
Do you think he's going to have a strong Republican challenger, though, if he decides to run in 2026?
I'm trying to recruit one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Dan, you want to move to Minnesota?
I'm definitely in that don't care about Tim Walz camp, I got to tell you. But just on Minnesota, because it's interesting, you know, so there's so much hope that Minnesota could be in play this time around, and we've seen this play out before. And sometimes Minnesota does things that are more than one standard deviation from normal, like Jesse the Body. But and then you look at the legislative level, and you see that the state house very competitive. In fact, it's so competitive that the report was Republicans narrowly lost a chance to take over the state house after a race that went on where the count went on for weeks, went the Democrats' way. What's the landscape there in that particular state house race and the administration of elections in Minnesota?
Well, right now the Minnesota House is exactly evenly split, and the parties are planning a power-sharing agreement that they're negotiating right now in the House. Meanwhile, the Senate, the Minnesota Senate, is controlled by the Democrats by one vote. One of their senators is going on trial for burglary next month, and that could lead to a special election. So you're absolutely right. At the legislative level, Minnesota is very evenly split, but the Republicans have had a terrible time electing statewide candidates. The last statewide Republican to win was Tim Pawlenty in 2006, so that's a real losing streak. Donald Trump got 1.5 million votes, the most votes any Republican has ever gotten in the state of Minnesota. So we Minnesota Republicans, you know, hope springs eternal.
Maybe Sam Darnold will run or something. Maybe you can get Sam Darnold to retire from the Vikings and run. I don't know. John Hendrick.
Frank Tarkington?
I don't.
Well,
is he still in
Frank's
Minnesota?
a little old, but you know he's a hardcore right winger.
Is he still in Minnesota?
I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah,
probably
I don't
not.
think so. Yeah, you go somewhere warm at some point. John Hendraker, President and Senator of the American Experiment, contributor to Powerline blog, powerlineblog.com. John, thanks as always.
Great to be with you, Dan.
Thank you, too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Better is around the corner in 2025. Feeling better, of course, getting rid of joint pain for once and for all. And QC Kinetics is where it's at. Their patients are able to walk up and down the stairs, sit and get back up. They can finally sleep. Wouldn't it be great to feel normal again? And that could be you. So call QC Kinetics now, today. Say goodbye to shoulder, knee, hip, and back pain. Saturday appointments available, no downtime. Just imagine a new year without achy joints. QC Kinetics uses the healing properties of your own body to attack the root cause of your pain. If you've been told surgery is your best or only option, you deserve a second opinion. Call QC Kinetics. The consultation is free, and you can use HSA and FSA dollars. Live your best life in 2025. Get started now. Call 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. QC Kinetics. Call 312-809-5955. All right, we're doing it. We are in the middle of our Food for the Poor campaign to help provide life-saving food to children in Latin America and the Caribbean, or, as Dan says, the Caribbean. During this season of economic decline, unemployment, and rising food costs, millions of children and their families are suffering. I mean, think about it. Think outside of yourself for a moment to what people are going through in third world countries. They simply don't know where their next meal is going to come from, and this can lead to sickness, disease, and ultimately starvation. That's why we've partnered with Food for the Poor. It is a faith-based, nonprofit relief organization that works directly with their partners on the ground in Latin America and the Caribbean to operate feeding centers. Now, this relationship ensures that the money we raise, the money that you donate during this campaign, is used efficiently to get food to the children who need it most.
In order to achieve our goals here as part of this national campaign to work with Food for the Poor to save lives in Central America, we need donor leadership from the business community. It's just a must. And so we got our business benefactor program rolling again this year. Here's how it works, pretty straightforward. $2,500 donation to Food for the Poor. It's tax deductible, of course. And AM 560 will give you, your business, 41-minute commercials to air on our airwaves in prime broadcast hours, Monday to Friday, between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m., which is a great deal for advertising, very cost-effective deal for advertising. And in addition to that, of course, you'll be providing life-saving food for more than 50 children in Latin America or the Caribbean. So $2,500, you get 40 one-minute commercials, and you're helping us and help Food for the Poor really save lives in Latin America and the Caribbean. To become a business benefactor, you just call our sales manager. Her name is Ann Jeanette. Her phone number is 847-472-8951. Again, that's Ann Jeanette at 847-472-8951 for the business benefactor program.
And Dan, we've got a lot of people that are signing up. Craig Tischler, want to thank him. K&S Metals, Victoria Franzias, Rhoda Incorporated Signs and Print, Gatto Industrial Platters. The list goes on, but this will sell out. And if you've ever thought about advertising on Chicago radio, now is the time. Think about it. That tax deductible, $2,500 gift, which will feed 50 children and provide water for their entire community for a year. It's the best deal because as a way of saying thank you, we give you those 40 one-minute commercials that Dan was talking about. Call Ann Jeanette today. Get on it. 847-472-8951. And we thank you in advance for your generosity.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
This is Sean Thompson. When you go on vacation, does it make sense to have somebody else pack for you? Of course not. The same can be said for your retirement. Your 401k could be packed with things you don't know about or even need. If you're close to retirement, but you don't have a plan customized to your goals, it's like kind of taking a 30-year vacation with no idea what's in the suitcase. Sounds like a stressful way to begin what should be a relaxing time. Tom Fortino at Alpha Wealth Group can help you unpack your savings and build a plan to reduce future taxes, address Social Security and health care, and a whole lot more, all with a clear, defined income strategy. Call the Alpha Wealth Group at 630-934-1855. Ask for the complimentary retirement plan. That's 630-934-1855 or online at alphawealthgroup.com. And listen to the Alpha Wealth Hour Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. right here on AM 560.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
Hi, I'm Tom, founder and CEO of FreedomSquare.com and the newly launched Freedom Chamber. FreedomChamber.net is the pro-American business network. Together with our co-founders, we have built this network to help our members and partners grow, to share in exclusive benefits, and have a strong voice in Washington, D.C. Consider joining us.
Hi, I'm Dave Bratt, the Patriot Economist and co-founder of the Freedom Chamber.
Come join us, and together we will save this great republic.
I'm Alfredo Ortiz, CEO of Job Creators Network and a co-founding member of the Freedom Chamber. The Freedom Chamber actually is the voice of small and medium-sized businesses. Go to freedomchamber.net and sign up and join today.
Thank you to our co-founders. Please join us at thefreedomchamber.net, where you can find a new client, replace a woke vendor with a patriot, or even find a new friend. But join us today at freedomchamber.net.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
5 years after a devastating fire, the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris rises like a phoenix from the ashes, reopens this weekend. Trump is going. We'll talk to architect Duncan Stroik about the renovation project and this weekend's festivities, 7:37.
But first, let's stop by that newsroom once again and say hello to Mike Scott.
7:32, 12 degrees, partly cloudy skies. In New York City, the search goes on for the man who gunned down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Manhattan. New York Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch.
The suspect fled, first on foot, then on an e-bike, and was last seen in Central Park.
Investigators say while the motive isn't clear, they believe Thompson was targeted by the gunman. President-elect Trump's embattled pick for defense secretary is vowing to hang in there, meeting with lawmakers on Capitol Hill once again on Wednesday. South Carolina's Senator Lindsey Graham.
I am not going to make any decision based on an anonymous source. If you're not willing to raise your hand under oath and make the accusation, it doesn't count. I've heard everything about all these people. None of it counts.
Pete Hegseth has faced numerous sexual assault allegations, which he has denied. The Washington Post says Hegseth will visit Trump at the Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida later today. 2 kindergarten students are in the hospital. They're in critical condition, and a suspected gunman is dead after a shooting at a religious school in California.
Both of them boys, one age 6, one age 5. In addition to that, law enforcement officers located an adult male who was down, deceased from what appears to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Butte County Sheriff Corey Honea. The man accused of the shooting death of an Oak Park police officer is due in court today. Detective Alan Reddens was shot and killed last Friday, confronting a man who had left a bank nearby with a gun. 37-year-old Jarrell Thomas of Chicago faces first-degree murder charges along with attempted murder of a police officer. Chicago Public Schools CEO Pedro Martinez is staying put in spite of being offered a contract buyout by the Board of Education. The buyout offer comes as the power struggle between Martinez and Mayor Brandon Johnson and the Chicago Teachers Union continues. Blackhawks lost to Boston 4-2. The Bulls look to get a winning streak going, visiting San Antonio at the AT&T Center tonight. NFL, Bears prepping for the 49ers this weekend, but Week 14 kicks off tonight with the NFC North showdown, Lions and Packers. The news service of Papa Nicholas Coffee, a Chicagoland tradition for over 5 generations, combining heritage and innovation in every cup. Choose Papa Nicholas Coffee because great coffee is their family tradition. Online at papanicholas.com. We'll have a check of traffic and weather coming up next on AM 560.
Would you like to have your mortgage or rent paid for all of 2025? That sounds like a Christmas miracle, doesn't it? Well, that's exactly what AM 560 The Answer wants to do for you. Go to 560theanswer.com/miracle to enter our Christmas Mortgage Miracle Contest presented by Team Hochberg. Enter once per day, every day between now and December 20th, and you could have your rent or mortgage paid for all of next year. Go to 560theanswer.com/miracle.
I knew there had to be a better way to get relief from joint pain aside from surgery and harmful medications.
That's football legend and dancing champ Emmitt Smith, who knows a thing or two about joint pain.
Turns out I was right. It's called QC Kinetics, and now tens of thousands of patients and counting all across the country, they're feeling amazing. They say, hey, Emmitt, you were right.
QC Kinetics zeroed in on a technology that is revolutionizing pain treatment. They are transforming patients' lives. The largest provider of non-surgical regenerative treatments using natural healing properties to help restore and repair aching knees, hips, shoulders, and backs. Call them today for your free consultation.
QC Kinetics. I knew there had to be a better way. I love it when I'm right.
QC Kinetics.
Call QC Kinetics, 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
I love to travel. I've been to Easter Island, the Galapagos, Morocco, India, and the first item that I pack is my Balance of Nature.
Whether you're taking a vacation, visiting loved ones, or discovering new destinations, traveling is exciting. But let's face it, sometimes it's easy to prioritize everything else over your well-being when you're on the go. Balance of Nature offers a simple solution. Formulated from 31 whole fruit and vegetable ingredients, our fruits and veggie supplements are encapsulated and easily fit into your busy travel itinerary. Between bustling airports and scenic roads, Balance of Nature is the perfect addition to your wanderlust lifestyle. Merry Christmas! This season, be part of the cheer and save big with our exclusive Christmas deal. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and get 50% off your first preferred set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee as a new preferred customer by using discount code CHICAGO.
The new administration has hinted at one of its boldest moves yet, America's return to the gold standard. Backing the U.S. dollar with gold would create stability in a time of rapid economic change, pushing the price of gold higher than we've seen in decades. Those who act now could be positioned to benefit the most. Premier Gold specializes in helping those with a 401k, IRA, or other types of retirement accounts utilize a little-known loophole to move some of their savings into physical gold. Today, they'd like to send you a free gold standard kit to help you decide if this process is right for you. Call 606-800-8000 to take advantage of current rollover policies. Early action on physical gold could position your portfolio for maximum growth. Call Premier Gold at 606-800-8000. Call 606-800-8000 now. Premier Gold is not a financial advisor. Please consult with your advisor before investing. Call 606-800-8000.
Power up the holiday and give a gift from the top of their wish list. Visit your local Steel dealer or shop online at steelusa.com.
7:39. Let's get a check on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, and this update is a service of Trim Light Chicago. You've got to see it to believe it. Permanent holiday and year-round accent lighting for the exterior of your home or business. It's not too late to book your holiday installation, but you've got to do it today. Trim Light Chicago. Kennedy accident inbound between Montrose and California, a full 90 minutes into the circle this morning. Ike inbound, it's an hour 12, 390 into the old post office. I-55, you've got an off-ramp to Joliet Road shut down due to ongoing road work until 9 a.m. this morning. DuSable Lakeshore Drive dragging its heels northbound, Bryn Mawr up through Hollywood, and delays as you travel in Countryside with an accident, 55th and East Avenue. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now, your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Windy and colder. We'll have some sun this morning, but remember, bitter cold out there. High 28 later in the day. Clear and cold 16 overnight. Partly cloudy and 12 right now with a wind chill of -6. Your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. A momentous event this weekend as the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris reopens 5 years after that devastating fire. Did you ever see the movie The Agony and the Ecstasy with Charlton Heston playing Michelangelo and Rex Harrison playing Pope Julius II? This is about the painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. You ever see that?
I did not, Dan.
Yeah, well, you should.
But I have been to the Sistine Chapel, and I have been to the Notre Dame Cathedral.
They let you in Vatican City?
Yeah. Hey.
Wow.
I wore a skirt, long skirt.
So there's this great sort of motif in The Agony of the Ecstasy where Pope Julius II keeps checking in with Michelangelo, basically saying, "Is it done yet? Or when's it going to be done?" And Michelangelo continues to reply, "When I'm finished. When's it going to be done? When I'm finished." And so you sort of get the feeling that maybe that was going on with French authorities, and the restoration of the cathedral was not without its controversies that we learn thanks to a piece in the Wall Street Journal by our next guest, Duncan Stroik, who is a practicing architect, author, and professor of architecture at the University of Notre Dame. I've heard of it. Duncan Stroik, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Great to be here, Dan and Amy. Thanks for covering this story.
Yeah, so, I mean, before we get to the controversies, just the importance of this cathedral that I think by some estimates dates back almost 900 years, yeah?
Yes, so Notre Dame Cathedral is perhaps one of the most important Gothic cathedrals in the world, and certainly for Americans, it's the one that we know. We often travel to France. We go to Paris, and what do you see but Notre Dame? And, of course, there's a great story that was inspired by the building and its dilapidation in the 1800s by Victor Hugo, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And we know that story, and that really helped put it on the map for the French and the English speakers.
Well, and also, too, it's just interesting. I mean, I don't want to be over the top about it, but, you know, a rather secularized, one may say godless country that France has become, and yet all of the billionaire potentates in France ponied up. I think they've raised more than $1 billion for this restoration. You know, even for the secular world, this is an important structure. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that's so exciting about this event. I mean, you know, it's this principle that God can bring good out of evil, and this was a great evil to this fire and almost the destruction of the roof and the tower and almost the destruction of the building. And yet we're seeing many good things come from it, and one of it is people's generosity to realize that these are symbols for the French, symbols for the Parisians, and even symbols for the world of beauty, of faith, of humanity, and of history, and that we're part of that history.
Why was there such a quick race to reopen the cathedral?
Well, I think that's President Macron. He wanted to show, you know, the greatness of France, which it is a great country, and of course, his initial idea was something more modern looking and something that would show the century and very, as you said, very secular, something that distinguished the exterior of Notre Dame from the interior. Say we're a secular country with titanium or glass or something on the roof, or the swimming pool, or the, you know, whatever it was on the roof, and crazy stuff. And he loved that idea to show, you know, we're modern people and forget about this faith thing. He wanted to change the building basically and make it into more of a secular national symbol, and that was. The beautiful story is that people around the world had problems with that, but most importantly, the French. The French fought it, and he kind of agreed and changed his mind and let them build it the way it was.
Yeah, you want to put an Airbnb up there and a jacuzzi?
They wanted to do like the Notre Dame Cathedral sponsored by L'Oreal, like a big sign on the front of it, something like that.
They would love that, yes.
Yeah.
Thank God that didn't happen.
They would love that, yes.
So now the interesting thing too, just in terms of people who visited or would like to visit, that some of the artifacts, I mean, it was a devastating fire, but some of the artifacts in the cathedral were actually salvaged, and so will be displayed prominently again, like the Crown of Thorns. Yeah,
this is very exciting. The building was heavily damaged, but most of the artwork was preserved. The sculpture, most importantly, the Crown of Thorns was rescued immediately by one of the Monsignors, I believe, and a lot of paintings that were framed paintings, not on the walls, were removed. And so that's very exciting. Of course, the temporary altar that was put in, 30 years ago that looks like it was temporary, and other kinds of furniture were destroyed. But no one really was sad about that.
The controversies over the renovation the modernizing it. There was also a specific controversy about the spire itself, right?
Yeah, the spire is an amazing thing because it's become, it's part of the building, and we have seen it that way since the 1860s. It's always had this spire. Before that, there was a smaller spire, and this was done by Viollet-le-Duc, a famous French architect restorer, and that was the thing that they wanted to change. They said, well, this is only 170 years old. We can just get rid of that and do, some kind of steel structure or, glass or something that looks odd or modern, sorry. But this is the one, really the symbol, and it's really the greatest damage was because when the roof and the spire caught on fire, and the spire is a couple hundred feet tall, it fell down onto the roof, and it was really the weight, tons of weight of that tower that falling on the roof caused the openings in the roof, five openings in the stone ceiling. And so it was, on the one hand, the symbol of the building was also the greatest destruction. And fortunately, the French and the architects of the cathedral were like, no, this has to be rebuilt. This is a masterpiece. It's kind of like what you said, the Sistine Chapel. If you have a fire in the Sistine Chapel, do you just whitewash and do something modern in there, or do you try to reconstruct it? I think most people would like to see a reconstruction. And so on a great building, you just restore it. And so that's what they did, and it's rebuilt the way it was from the 19th century.
It really is important because, I mean, just the culture in the West, most recently, where you have this element that wants to essentially erase history and start at year zero, as all revolutions do, the Bolsheviks, the Jacobins, and here we have this appeal to medieval Europe and Christian Europe that still stands in 2024.
Yeah, it's very exciting. As you just pointed out, the enemies of cathedrals throughout history, fire, vandals, iconoclasts, and unfortunately, in our last century, architects are part of that. The people who should be restoring or rebuilding have become part of that iconoclasm. But again, fortunately, for my money, the experts were not followed here. The people spoke up, and the people actually have common sense and appreciate their history and want beauty. And at great cost, they rebuilt the tower and the rest of the building.
Now, this 5-year drama didn't come out, or 5-year reconstruction project didn't come without drama, because one of the people who was tasked with overseeing the reconstruction disappeared. Who is he, and what happened to him?
Oh, is this the general? The general
Yes.
who was put in charge, and he was a tough guy, and he's probably a very good general, because generals should beat up their soldiers. I'm just kidding, but he was beating everybody up. I don't think he was really on. My understanding is he wasn't really supportive of the idea of the perfect reconstruction using the old methods, the old axes for cutting the wood and the old methods for joining the wood together, mortise and tenon, and some of the stonework. He was more of a Macronian. And he died this summer, I think, or was it a year ago, and was replaced by another fellow. And of course, they're all saying how great it was, and nobody's ever mentioning that they wanted to do a modernist edition on top. Everybody's talking as if this was the plan all along and how great it is. And of course, poor President Macron is not doing well in popularity, so they want to make this, part of his legacy, which is fine, but. Again, I think he was one of the problems. Not the 5-year idea, but just the idea that you put a parking garage on top of Notre Dame.
Just the scale of this project. I was reading it took 6 months just to remove all the scaffolding.
Yeah, and very delicate. I mean, it's up there, hundreds of feet up there. It's next to this building that is a little. Has just been bruised, damaged, and of course the scaffolding above the tower, where the tower was. They were restoring the tower when it burned down. Very tricky, dangerous stuff. And I haven't heard a lot of people getting hurt. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but we haven't heard of deaths. It's been, very safe, and yet thousands of people working on the project, not necessarily on the building at one time, but there's hundreds of people that were working on this.
Yeah.
And yeah, just to take down the scaffolding is amazing. I've been up on buildings, on tall scaffolding, but this is amazing to be up, 300 feet in the air on scaffolding. That's serious stuff.
And the importance of heads of state traveling to Paris for this reopening, including the incoming president here.
Yeah, that's very exciting. That's really great, and that's, what's interesting is I'm very proud of it. We, Americans, we're not a very wealthy country. We can't really afford to help out the French. I'm kidding, but the French did rise to the occasion, and almost $1 billion was raised, which is amazing. It sounds like it's more than enough to take care of it, which is really good. But we were I think we were the next biggest donors were the Americans, and we gave maybe not a huge amount, but $56 million isn't bad, and thousands and thousands of Americans gave money to this. So we care, and one of the things I loved was the French architect Philippe Villeneuve and his compatriots came and kind of did a fundraising tour and a Thanksgiving tour during the process, and they traveled all over the U.S. thanking Americans and talking about the project, and I think it resulted in more money. They even came to their namesake, that little college on the other side of the lake, Notre Dame.
Now,
very good.
Do you have any idea why Trump was invited and not Biden, or was Biden invited and turned down the invitation?
I would just assume, because it's happening now, I would assume that the important people are all invited, and I'm sure that President Biden was invited, maybe even other past presidents, let's say, were invited, but he's the sitting president right now. He should go, and I think he says that he's a good Catholic, so you'd think he'd want to go,
right.
But maybe,
he does say that.
It's kind of shocking.
It's kind of shocking. That. Yeah.
I know.
We have heard rumblings.
I would go if they invited me, and I bet those guys might even have a good seat. I'd go.
You could go as his. Yeah, you could be his seat filler. Yeah, his seat filler.
Seat filler, right.
Duncan Stroik, practicing architect, author, professor of architecture at the University of Notre Dame. Duncan, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for Dan and Navy. You're the greatest.
Thanks. So you appreciate your work and your article in the Wall Street Journal, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Black Friday deals are happening now at Gat Guns in East Dundee. Come in Friday the 29th for huge savings on Taurus, Rossi, Savage Arms, ammunition, gun cases, accessories, and more at Gat Guns. On Saturday, November 30th, 6-hour reps will be available for even more sales and factory demos. The Glock rep will be in the store on December 3rd, ready to answer all your questions. The Black Friday deals keep going at Gat Guns with Smith & Wesson on Saturday, December 7th with the best discounts, rebates, and giveaways of the season. Gat Guns is loaded with thousands of guns, over 1 million rounds of ammo, and everything else a shooting enthusiast has on their wish list. Not sure what to select? Choose a gift card in any amount. Whether you're a seasoned pro or a first-time buyer, they've got something special just for you. Don't miss the sales going on now at Gat Guns in East Dundee, Illinois. For more information and directions, visit gatguns.com. That's gatguns.com.
Amy Jacobson and Dan Proft here, and we want to tell you about our 2024 Food for the Poor campaign.
If you've listened to the station and to our show for any length of time, then you already know about Food for the Poor. They're a nonprofit, faith-based organization that provides food, water, medicine, clothing, and life-saving supplies directly to local partners in Latin America and the Caribbean.
We all know how bad the situation is right now in Latin America and the Caribbean.
For many families, the cost of food has simply become prohibitive, leading to sickness and starvation.
The only thing standing between these families and starvation is Food for the Poor. But in order to get this food to those who need it most, Food for the Poor needs your help. Your one-time gift of just $50 can provide life-saving food for a child for an entire year and provide their community with access to water.
To give a gift of any amount, just call 844-862-4673. That's 844-862-4673. 4673.
Or you can visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor, or just click on the Give Life banner.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity's stolen, their U.S.-based restoration specialists will fix it guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code CLAY. Visit LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Why pay more for prescriptions? Stop overpaying and start saving with SingleCare. It's easy. Find your prescription on SingleCare.com. Show the coupon at the pharmacy and start saving. SingleCare works at pharmacies nationwide and is completely free to use, whether you have insurance or not. So the next time you fill a prescription, check SingleCare to make sure you're getting the best price. Take control of your prescription costs. Go to SingleCare.com or download the free app today.
$20 million. No, it's not the national debt. It's the buying spree at Fox Valley Coins. And it's on from now until Thanksgiving. It's really the perfect storm. Gold and silver are at historic levels. Fox Valley Coins has a huge order to fill with one of their national clients. And September through Thanksgiving is always when coin dealers stock up for Christmas sales. They are especially looking for the old collector coins like silver dollars, all 1700s through early 1900s coins. All kinds of gold, from broken jewelry to gold bars to the old coins, U.S. and foreign. All kinds of silver, from sterling silverware to old coins and bars to Franklin Mint items. They can pay cash or check and make house calls on larger deals prior to Thanksgiving. Fox Valley Coins, one light north of I-88 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. They'll make free, no-obligation offers. Make that 20,000,001 reasons to go to Fox Valley Coins now. They give free in-store offers on your items.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
This is about 97. I'm 86. I'm 70 years old.
I've been a very happy customer.
That's some good stuff, I'll tell you.
I think it's wonderful stuff. I like the product, and I'm telling a lot of people about it.
It's the best stuff in the world, Jimmy. It's good stuff.
I'm 81 years old. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I walk every morning and every evening with my dog. Since I have been taking this Balance of Nature, I just can't say enough about it.
Merry Christmas. This season, be part of the cheer and save big with our exclusive Christmas deal. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and get 50% off your first preferred set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee as a new preferred customer by using discount code Chicago.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer,
we'll talk trans cult with investigative reporter Jennifer Bialik at 8:08.
And the LPGA has announced a new gender policy for trans players. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
Operations manager at McCormick Place indicted. A deadly shooting on Chicago's far south side and fire at a homeless encampment in Elgin. A semi crashes into an abandoned home in Harvey, and a famous beer brand finally in the state of Illinois. WIND Chicago News Time, 8 o'clock.
The Secret Service under scrutiny again. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. At a hearing that'll start this hour, Acting Director Ronald Rowe will be questioned by the House task force investigating the Trump assassination attempts, especially the security failures at the first one in July when the president-elect was bloodied, his ear grazed by a bullet at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania.
He said while he cannot undo the harm that's been done, he is committed to doing everything in his power to ensure that the Secret Service never has a failure like this again. Now, that's a quote from his prepared opening statement that he's expected to deliver this morning.
As Fox's Brooke Singman, Trump Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth insists he'll not back down, telling the Wall Street Journal he won't give in to a textbook media takedown amid allegations of sexual misconduct, alcohol abuse on the job, and financial mismanagement. And despite the president-elect considering replacing him, Hegseth keeps meeting with and getting support from Republican senators. Ron Johnson tells Fox.
He certainly conveyed to me the priorities of
what he would do as defense secretary, and I agree with him.
It's day 2 of the manhunt in a Manhattan murder, searching for the masked gunman who killed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside a New York City hotel. Fox's Chanley Painter reports.
Crime Stoppers is now offering a $10,000 reward for information on the gunman, and the New York Post also reporting that police obtained the suspect's Starbucks trash he threw away, so maybe they'll have DNA, which may, of course, lead to an arrest eventually.
The Post also reports police found messages written on bullets and shell casings at the scene. The words deny, depose, and defend on them. Thompson's wife says the CEO had been receiving threats. 2 kids, age 5 and 6, remain in critical condition in California after the kindergartners were shot in their religious private school by a gunman who then killed himself. Butte County Sheriff Corey Honey says it appears he
targeted this school because of its affiliation with the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
America's listening to Fox News.
12 degrees at 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. The man accused of the shooting death of an Oak Park police officer is due in court today. Detective Alan Reddens was shot and killed last Friday. 37-year-old Jarrell Thomas of Chicago faces first-degree murder charges along with attempted murder of a police officer. A key manager at McCormick Place, the convention center on the lakefront in Chicago, faces federal fraud charges over allegations of pocketing kickbacks from a company contracted to provide snowplow services at that facility. A federal indictment says Dominic Gironda's scheme with an associate to approve inflated invoices for services. Gironda apparently approved cash that was kicked back to an associate who then passed along some or all of that money to Gironda. Tensions remain high as contract talks continue between CPS and the Chicago Teachers Union. CEO Pedro Martinez said yesterday the potential loss of federal funding for programs is a big concern going forward.
Of grants that we have always taken for granted that could be changed in a way that is very negative to our district. And so that is something we're analyzing now.
CTU Financial Secretary Maria Moreno accused CPS CEO Martinez of dragging his feet during negotiations. And now this morning, published reports suggest Martinez has hired a law firm to help avoid the city's alleged attempts to fire him or bully him into a resignation. Chicago sports. Blackhawks are on a 4-game losing streak following a 4-2 loss to the Bruins at the United Center. The Bulls look to get a winning streak going when they visit San Antonio at the AT&T Center tonight. The News is a service of Balance of Nature fruits and veggies in a capsule. Use coupon code Chicago to save 35% as a preferred customer. Hurry, offer ends soon. 8:04, time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. And now, the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Lauren Simonetti, and this is the Fox Business Report.
The outgoing Biden administration is renewing a push for airline consumer protections, saying it'll take steps toward requiring airlines to pay cash compensation and cover lodging and meals for passengers who are stranded when an airline causes flights to be canceled or changed. The rule would go far beyond the current requirements for airlines to pay ticket refunds and would make U.S. policy more closely in line with consumer protections in Europe. Industry trade group Airlines for America says this proposal would drive up ticket prices, and the Walt Disney Company hikes its cash dividend by 33% to $1 a share. CEO Bob Iger saying in a statement that Disney has had a highly successful year and is pleased to increase the dividend. Analysts say shareholders can thank blockbuster movies. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Lillian Wu, invested in you.
Would you like to have your mortgage or rent paid for all of 2025? That sounds like a Christmas miracle, doesn't it? Well, that's exactly what AM 560 The Answer wants to do for you. Go to 560theanswer.com/miracle to enter our Christmas Mortgage Miracle Contest presented by Team Hochberg. Enter once per day, every day between now and December 20th, and you could have your rent or mortgage paid for all of next year. Go to 560theanswer.com/miracle.
Shop Dell Technologies Cyber Monday event for their lowest prices of the year. The future is on sale today with limited time deals on select PCs like the XPS 16 that accelerate AI with Intel Core Ultra processors. Cyber Monday is their biggest sale of the year and the best time to upgrade, but it's only here for a limited time. Shop now at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf. Call 800-215-2418, 800-215-2418, 800-215-2418.
This is Sean Thompson. When you go on vacation, does it make sense to have somebody else pack for you? Of course not. The same can be said for your retirement. Your 401k could be packed with things you don't know about or even need. If you're close to retirement, but you don't have a plan customized to your goals, it's like kind of taking a 30-year vacation with no idea what's in the suitcase. Sounds like a stressful way to begin what should be a relaxing time. Tom Fortino at Alpha Wealth Group can help you unpack your savings and build a plan to reduce future taxes, address Social Security and health care, and a whole lot more, all with a clear, defined income strategy. Call the Alpha Wealth Group at 630-934-1855. Ask for the complimentary retirement plan. That's 630-934-1855 or online at alphawealthgroup.com. And listen to the Alpha Wealth Hour Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. right here on AM 560.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
If your approach to everyday aches and pains is to mask them, feel better for a few hours only to have the pain return and then repeat the cycle all over again, it's time to try Relief Factor. And the good news is, Relief Factor makes that easy. Their 3-week quick start is just $19.95, less than $1 a day. Instead of masking pain, Relief Factor helps eliminate it. How? Well, its unique formula of ingredients helps support your body's response to inflammation. Relief Factor was developed by doctors. It's 100% drug-free, and for so many people, the results are game-changing, even life-changing. So give it a try. Right now, their 3-week quick start is just $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. See how in a few weeks or even days, Relief Factor can reduce your pain. When you feel better, life is just better. So don't mask pain. Fight it naturally with Relief Factor.
It's 8:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. It's a service of Balance of Nature fruits and veggies in a capsule. Save 35% off your first preferred order with promo code Chicago at balanceofnature.com. Hurry, offer ends soon. The Kennedy right now, just under 90 minutes. O'Hare into the circle. Accident reported inbound between Montrose and California. An accident on the outbound Eisenhower. 2 left lanes are blocked between the Tri-State and York Road in that construction zone. Dan Ryan's stop and go inbound between 51st and the Burns Circle interchange. 394, an accident reported on both shoulders. It's northbound 394 in the south suburbs right at Sauk Trail. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Clouds and sun, windy, cold day today. Dress warm. High today only 28. It'll be clear and cold tonight, low 16. Partly sunny, brisk and cold tomorrow, the high 30. And then clouds and sun, breezy on Saturday, high 41. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Partly cloudy and 12 right now. A wind chill of -5. And your next news update is at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Yesterday, before the Supreme Court, the Biden administration, through its Solicitor General, And an ACLU lawyer argued that the 14th Amendment means a state cannot ban transgender hormone regimes for, regimens, I should say, for adolescents. Yeah, that happened. That's where things are at, despite 26 states that have prohibitions on these trans procedures and regimens for adolescents, for minors. And we've gone from not knowing what a woman is at the Supreme Court, among certain justices, to not knowing what immutable is. Speaking of that justice who's just completely baffled by what a woman is, Ketanji Brown Jackson offered this comparison in her questioning of legal representatives for the state of Tennessee.
Being drawn by the statute. That was sort of like the starting point. The question was whether it was discriminatory because it applied to both races and it wasn't necessarily invidious or whatever. But, as I read the statute here, the case here, the court starts off by saying that Virginia is now one of 16 states which prohibit and punish marriages on the basis of racial classifications. And when you look at the structure of that law, it looks in terms of, you can't do something that is inconsistent with your own characteristics. It's sort of the same thing. So it's interesting to me that we now have this different argument, and I wonder whether Virginia could have gotten away with what they did here by just making a classification argument the way that Tennessee is in this case.
Yes, I think that's exactly right, that there is absolutely a parallel between any law that says you can't act inconsistent with a protected characteristic and in all other contexts.
That's not, that's just sophistry. That's Elizabeth Preligor, the Solicitor General, agreeing with the statement provided in the form of a question by Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson.
But I did get a little hope when they asked Justice Sotomayor, is this a minority protection issue? And here was her answer.
When you're 1% of the population or less, very hard to see how the democratic process is going to protect you.
Well, Your Honor,
you blacks were a much larger part of the population, and it didn't protect them. It didn't protect women for whole centuries.
I'm sorry, what was encouraging to you about that?
No, I'm saying it was not encouraging. It was
Sotomayor's another occultist.
I know.
She's another identitarian cultist and a soft-headed legal mind, much like Ketanji Brown Jackson. This is just utter nonsense. It's not even close. The substance of this, the feds are arguing in the ACLU, is that a teenager whose sex assigned at birth is male can be prescribed testosterone to conform to male gender identity, but a teenager assigned female at birth cannot. And this is the discriminatory practice. As the Wall Street Journal opines, the problem with this argument is that it's sophistry. The Tennessee law is focused on diagnoses, and it permits treatments for a minor's congenital defect, precocious puberty, disease, or physical injury. A biological male can obtain male hormones to correct a medical problem. A biological female can't get male hormones for gender transition. This isn't sex discrimination unless the starting ideological premise is that the preference is the only difference between boys and girls. Right. And this is the discussion that Ketanji Brown Jackson, here we go again, had with Tennessee Solicitor General Matthew Rice, where I thought he provided a nice analog to try to help Ketanji Brown Jackson understand the difference.
That it operates on the body in the same way. So what's your basis for saying they're not the same?
I don't think it operates on the body in the same way. Take testosterone. If you give a boy with a deficiency testosterone because he has constitutional delayed puberty, that allows him to go through and develop the reproductive organs associated with being a male. If you give it to a girl, it renders the girl infertile. So we have 8 to 12-year-olds being
I'm sorry.
asked.
I thought your reasons for them being different was that you said they were for different purposes. I'd heard you say at the beginning the reason those two are different is because one wants them to transition and the other wants them for some medical purpose.
Well, to go back to my example in the introduction, I don't think anyone would say using morphine to assist suicide is the same treatment as using morphine to manage pain. It's the same drug, just like it's the same drug here, but they're being used for fundamentally different purposes. They have different effects on the body. And once you take out and you recognize medical reality, then there is no argument that our law differentiates between treatments for males and females.
I mean, the reason we're even here having to entertain this idiotic case is because of Gorsuch's majority opinion in Bostock, but I won't even go down that legal road anymore. Let's talk a little bit about the cult of trans. This is all identitary politics dressed up as equal justice under the law. That's what the Biden administration is trying to do with the help of the ACLU. Jennifer Bielek is an investigative journalist tracking the funding of the gender industry. She's the author of the 11th Hour blog, the 11thhourblog.com, and the book Transsexual, Transgender, Transhuman, Dispatches from the 11th Hour. Jennifer, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
So, I mean, I'm fairly confident. I mean, I just can't believe the speciousness of this argument that's being offered by the ACLU and the Biden administration is going to hold up with this court. But nonetheless, I mean, there is some real danger here of essentially codifying the trans cultists' predilections and unraveling the law in 26 states if, well, I mean, if, for example, Gorsuch doesn't recognize the error of his ways in Bostock.
Oh, it's really, I mean, we really are in danger. And when you say cult, I mean, it really is a cult. It's actually a marketing apparatus that is so dense and so infiltrated into our culture at this point that it operates very much like cult ideology. And what we're looking at here actually is a system that is acclimating us to the idea we are not a sexually dimorphic species. It's not just some woke ideology run amok. It actually has intention. And that intention is to make room for advanced reproductive technologies, anything from IVF to what they're researching now is womb implants for men who want to pose as women, ectogenesis, which is growing embryos outside of the womb, surrogacy, where the woman is who actually gestates the child and this child grows inside of her, off of her organs, is treated like an object, like an incubator, and then the child is removed from her. And all sorts of other advancements that are happening at a breakneck pace. And society has to be acclimated to the idea that we are parts, that we are commodities in this system. So it's really a colonization process of human reproduction.
You know, I think that the need to see this as a cult is important because I think people have, you know, some sort of general understanding of that. And it helps to answer the question of, you know, what is the rush? I mean, if is the position of most people, if somebody wants to do that when they're of age, that's one thing. But to do this to kids in their formative years, you know, why the rush? And they come up with the fact-free arguments about mental health and the incidence of suicide and so on and so forth. But I think the understanding what all cults do, you have to get to the kids, you have to indoctrinate them and bring them along. I think that helps to frame it so that you can appreciate what's happening here, what the dynamic is.
Absolutely. And I don't think this idea that, oh, you know, adults should be able to do whatever they want with their bodies. I mean, this is a deconstruction of human sex. You can't have people running around denying that with their physicality. You know, it completely ruins statistics of any sort. It confuses children when they're forming their ability to name and recognize reality.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. The business side of this too. I mean, this gets, you know, increasingly ghoulish as you look at it from different angles. The organization Do No Harm has published, has put up a database to show just how much money is here in terms of looking at medical reimbursements for the prescription of puberty blockers, for trans surgeries on minors. They're doing it by state, by hospital, by doctor. And what we find, of course, Illinois being, as usual, the worst example, Illinois is number one in the country, the highest amount of reimbursements for gender transition services for adults and kids in Illinois at north of $40 million. So the aspect of this where the medical establishment has folded in, at least some of the medical establishment, because there's money to be made.
Well, there's boatloads of money to be made on people that, are lifelong medical patients once they start down this trail. And, the prolific marketing apparatus that drives people to do this, and also framing it as a human right when it's actually a business, it all drives these surgeries, which are very, very profitable. But the real big kahuna is grooming us for the deconstruction of sex, because now we're parts, and these parts, we're much more profitable as parts, as sperm, as eggs, as wombs, as, hormones, et cetera, as opposed to, we are whole beings. Our sex is part of us. It's integral. We're put together, but this system, this ideology, and this, gender identity stuff is really just meant to obscure the industry that's happening right before our eyes. So the real big kahuna is the tech reproduction market that is, it's growing to the point where, you can have a woman who gestates a baby inside of her and another woman's eggs that are implanted in her, and then a man's sperm. So now you have three biological parents, not genetically all related, but definitely all biological parents of this child. We've never seen anything like that before. And these technologies are growing exponentially, so they have to acclimate us. And the way to do that is to, give us the idea, permeate the atmosphere with the idea that we're not actually a sexually dimorphic species. And the Pritzkers of Illinois are a big, big driver of this ideology. They're funding medical centers, gender clinics, universities, the military, et cetera, millions and millions and millions of dollars to saturate the culture here in America and also in Canada with this ideology that we're not a sexually dimorphic species, that they are reducing us to commodities. And the root of this is in the compulsion, a sexual compulsion of adult men that we used to understand as transsexualism, but it's been rebranded for the youth, to capture the youth, to transgenderism. You can't really sell a fetish of adult men to children or their parents, but rebrand it to transgenderism, make it very cool and progressive, and you have a whole branding and a whole new market.
And then cast them as sort of a victim class that needs to be protected because they're being discriminated against. And then you have the moral high ground, you think.
Yes, huge.
So, but the Pritzkers, how much money are we talking, and how big is this business going to be in, say, 2030, if it's not stopped by the Supreme Court?
Well, it's already in the billions. It's going to be, by 2030, we're probably talking, I don't know, it's 30 billion maybe.
I mean, what is
There are varying, a lot of varying statistics about, where the market is going. But it is growing, broadly, because the marketing for it, under the guise of a human rights movement is so dense, it's so prolific, it's everywhere. And they're sending millions and millions of dollars to institutions, educational institutions, to drive the ideology.
What's your perspective on the Pritzker family? I mean, so obviously they're not making money on this. They're using their money to drive a particular cultural and societal outcome. So what's the
they'll be making lots of money. Their investments are now, they made their money in the high-end hotel industry.
Yeah, yes.
But
so
now it's all in the medical industrial complex, all their investments.
Right, but I mean, there's and I knew Jennifer Pritzker when he was Jim Pritzker. There's a underlying ideology that's really driving this, though. There's a socio-political paradigm shift that they want, and I wanted your perspective on what you think that is.
Well, I think that I already tried to clarify that. I think that this ideology is being driven specifically to change our perceptions of ourselves as a species, as a sexually dimorphic species, because we are being broken into parts for the technological reproductive market. We are no longer whole biological sex systems, but we are penises, breasts, vaginas, hormones, chromosomes, etc.
And this is right. And this is an advance to what end? Is this an advance to transhumanism? Is it an advance to?
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that you can have 3 biological parents is already a transhumanist paradigm. Yeah, and Martine Rothblatt is another character. I mean, I've written profusely about the Pritzkers, and I use them as being emblematic of other funders and other billionaires that are driving this ideology. And another one is Martine Rothblatt, who actually wrote down this cult ideology. He created it with other transvestites. And he wrote a book of this ideology called From Transgender to Transhuman. And so all of the things that are going down in the culture right now are in that little tiny little book. He's also been, I'm sorry?
No, and this is, I mean, and this, so that, and the transhumanist perspective is in service to the goal of immortality, the destruction of the nuclear family, to recreate society to organize society in some other basis besides the nuclear family, some combination of the two.
Yes. Well, if you're going to destroy, sex, if you're going to deconstruct sex for the market, you have to destroy the family. You have to, and that's part of what's happening here. And I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, that's all right. I mean, I think people are just trying to get their mind wrapped around why is there so much billionaire money backing this, and why is there such a push? And you're always trying to understand somebody's motivations or the premises from which they're starting in terms of the outcomes they want, that they desire. And I think people think,
well, it's intricately connected to fusing humanity with AI, artificial intelligence, and technologies, which we've been moving towards, for generations now. And it just gets more and more profound, how attached we are to technology and how removed we are from the natural world. So this is an extension of that. Now, there are some transhumanist ideas that are not horrible. Like, for instance, they now have implanted AI in artificial limbs so that people without limbs can they're in a much, much better position because the AI actually learns from their movement and then so can govern the artificial limb itself. So that's pretty profound. That's a transhumanist ideology. But this ideology is completely deranged because it's driving humanity towards eventual immortality. That you're going to be living in the singularity, like Ray Kurzweil of Google talks about.
Yeah.
Google was the first company with a transhumanist platform, and he believes that we're all going to be living in cyberspace, as data. And he's been writing about this since, late 90s, early 2000s, when gender bills were first authored by this person, Martin Rothblatt, who's co-founder of Sirius XM satellite radio. He runs around with simulacrums of women's biology, telling people that he's a woman. He's a tech entrepreneur, a very, very successful tech entrepreneur. He's owned a pharmaceutical corporation. He's worked on the human genome at the UN level, oddly enough, creating an ethical structure for that. So we're seeing vast changes, in humanity, technological changes in humanity at different fronts. But the transgender, what they call transgender, or the gender industry, is really the reproductive front of that ideology.
And maybe the Trump administration.
Again, the marketing is so dense and so profuse, and it's embedded now in all of our institutions and market. And it's marketed as progressive. We never have seen, any kind of body dysmorphic disorder marketed as a positive, progressive, another way to be human. Right? So this, the idea that this is a medical condition is just absolute bunk.
Hopefully the Trump administration can make science fiction again. Jennifer Bilek is an investigative journalist tracking the funding of the gender industry, author of the 11th Hour blog, the11thhourblog.com, and the book Transsexual, Transgender, Transhuman, Dispatches from the 11th Hour. Jennifer, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
We'll talk border policy. What exactly will Trump's mass deportation program look like? Darlene McCormick-Sanchez from the Epoch Times joins us, 8:38.
But now into the newsroom we go. Here's Mike Scott.
12 degrees, partly cloudy skies at 8:32. Police are still searching for the man who killed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in New York yesterday. Fox's Chanley Painter has more from the scene.
The shooter may have left a message on evidence found at the scene. Thompson was gunned down yesterday morning outside a New York City hotel. Police releasing chilling surveillance video showing Thompson in the blue blazer as a masked man walks up behind him, raising his handgun before several shots were fired at close range. After the assassination, the gunman escaped through an alleyway before hopping on an e-bike and disappearing into Central Park. And now we are learning some clues as to a possible motive: deny, depose, and defend, written on live rounds and shell casings left behind by the masked assassin.
The suspect is still at large. Legal experts believe the Supreme Court is likely to uphold a Tennessee law banning so-called transgender care for minors. The High Court heard arguments Wednesday on Tennessee's ban. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee signed that law.
It's not about right versus left. It's really about reasonable versus radical, or at the very least, reasonable versus real risk.
Legal experts say the majority appears to ready to let the law remain in place and leave future debates up to states. 3 big companies this morning are yanking advertising from Amazon-owned Twitch amid allegations the company promotes anti-Semitic content. AT&T, J.P. Morgan Chase, and Dunkin' Donuts have all pulled ads from Twitch. It's aimed at gamers, according to Bloomberg reporting this morning. A stowaway who snuck on board a flight from New York's JFK to Paris is due in Brooklyn federal court today. Security officials in France escorted the woman onto a plane back to the U.S. yesterday. She was arrested by the FBI after landing at JFK. Officials say she got through several levels of security at JFK last week to board the Paris-bound Delta flight. The man accused of the shooting death of an Oak Park police officer is due in court today. Detective Alan Reddens was shot and killed last Friday. 37-year-old Jarrell Thomas of Chicago will appear in court in Maywood. And a key manager at McCormick Place, the convention center along the lakefront in Chicago, faces federal fraud charges over allegations of pocketing kickbacks from a company contracted to provide snowplow services at that facility. The Blackhawks 4-2 losers to the Bruins at the UC. The Bulls look to get a winning streak going when they visit San Antonio at the AT&T Center tonight. College hoops action: DePaul lost to Texas Tech. UIC crushed by Northern Iowa. The news service of Balance of Nature. Fruits and veggies in a capsule. Save 35% off your first preferred order with promo code Chicago. Order online at balanceofnature.com. Hurry, offer ends soon. And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Get ready for a musical journey like no other when the Trans-Siberian Orchestra returns to Chicago on December 23rd on their Lost Christmas Tour 2024. AM 560 is giving away tickets. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/Christmas. Don't miss the Trans-Siberian Orchestra at the All-State Arena. Go to 560theanswer.com/Christmas.
Amy Jacobson and Dan Proft here, and we want to tell you about our 2024 Food for the Poor campaign.
If you've listened to this station and to our show for any length of time, then you already know about Food for the Poor. They are a nonprofit, faith-based organization that provides food, water, medicine, clothing, and life-saving supplies directly to local partners in Latin America and the Caribbean.
We all know how bad the situation is right now in Latin America and the Caribbean.
For many families, the cost of food has simply become prohibitive, leading to sickness and starvation.
The only thing standing between these families and starvation is Food for the Poor. But in order to get this food to those who need it most, Food for the Poor needs your help. Your one-time gift of just $50 can provide life-saving food for a child for an entire year and provide their community with access to water.
To give a gift of any amount, just call 844-862-4673. That's 844-862-4673.
Or you can visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor or just click on the Give Life banner.
The Christmas season is the most wonderful time of the year. But for Chicago's police, fire, and EMS, it can be challenging. Long nights on the beat and daily reminders of lost colleagues and friends can weigh heavily on the mind. R.J. Ullman Company, a commercial HVAC contractor 50 years invested in the building up of the city of Chicago, has partnered with the Well Resource Center, a local nonprofit organization on a mission to build up the health and well-being of our sometimes forgotten first responders and their families. Mental health is mental wealth. The Well offers enriching and meaningful weekly events for men and women. We encourage both the city's first responders and donors to visit the Well Resource Center online at thewellrc.org for more information. That's thewellrc.org, or simply drop by the club, 6160 West Higgins in the 16th District. Merry Christmas from your friends at R.J. Ullman Company and The Well. A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. For the first time ever, you'll get a standard classic MyPillow for wholesale prices, only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, they're going to offer their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Get queen-size MyPillows for just $18.88. Upgrade to king-size for only $1 more. Get the body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever and receive free shipping on orders over $75. That's right. Get the standard MyPillow for only $14.88. They have never been offered this low before. They're limited quantities at this price, so the limit is going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY to get the standard MyPillow for only $14.88, the lowest price ever.
8:39. Let's get a check on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And this update is a service of Lowe's. Only at Lowe's, MVP's Pro Rewards members can get a volume discount on eligible orders as low as $1,500. Discount on eligible product only. See ProDesk for details. MVP's Pro Rewards program is always subject to terms. Kennedy inbound. Accident right shoulder between Montrose and California being tended to. It's an hour and 40. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange right now. I-55, you got an off-ramp to Joliet Road. Southbounders are dealing with jam-ups at Joliet Road this morning because of ongoing road work. And an accident on both shoulders. Northbound on 394 in the south suburbs right at Sauk Trail. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Windy and colder. We'll have some sun, but bitter cold this morning. We'll top out at 28 later in the day. Clear and cold overnight. and a low of 16. Currently, partly cloudy and 13 with a wind chill of -4. Your next news update is at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. These exchanges on these CNN panels, they're difficult to endure, but that's why we get paid the big bucks. So we will go through it. This is Lee McGowan, who's some type of podcaster, politics girl. Scott Jennings, and then some other shills in this roundtable hosted by Abby Phillip, where they sort of basically do the same thing every day. 5 people say the same thing about Trump and in defense of the Biden administration, denigrating Trump and his nominees, his policies. And then Scott Jennings tries to ask simple questions to explore the substance or lack thereof of their positions. And so a favorite right now of the left, so they don't have to deal with the substantive matters associated with illegal immigration and open borders, is to lose their minds over this mischaracterization of Trump as having said he's going to use the U.S. military against his political enemies, round up his political enemies, round up people in this country illegally, when he said nothing of the sort. So here's a little flavor of how that went.
I don't want to be bringing back waterboarding. I don't want to be a country that tortures people, especially if we're the kind of country that's going to be using the military against our own citizens.
Well, wait,
this kind of thing concerns me.
What do you mean use against our own citizens?
I'm talking about
you
sending...
said blue states behave. What do you mean? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about sending the military into blue states to make them behave. Getting Gavin Newsom under control, getting J.P. Pritzker under control.
What are you
making
talking
sure...
about? What do you mean? Like sitting into the state capitol to commandeer the state government?
I mean, I hope not, but he's definitely talked about that. I don't know why you're acting like you've never heard
the military
this
to suppress, in the Black Lives Matter era, those protests in the street. He was there himself.
I just make sure I understand your position, that you believe Donald Trump is going to use the military to set up effectively like coups in state capitals of states that he didn't win?
I think you're taking it a step or two.
No, she said
far.
Make blue states behave, and she also said round up immigrants. That's not true. It's deport illegal immigrants.
Scott,
I think you're just being a little
I don't know why you're acting. No,
oh my God. Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Hold on. I mean, look. I think you're right. Let's be precise. Trump has wanted to use the military to do things domestically that actually the military is not allowed to do. I think that's the point that she's making.
Like what?
Like deport illegal immigrants. That is actually not a function of the military.
The military can absolutely be used to work with local officials to provide military resources, but working with other parts of the federal government and local officials. We already send the National Guard to the border.
Not against the will of the local officials or the will of the state government.
We have
a federalist government here.
The military is not supposed to take up arms against American citizens, period.
They're not. You keep saying that. This is about illegal immigration. You all keep saying American citizens.
Well,
it's
how do
about
we
illegal
know whether the people are illegal or not?
Well, when we
know after they're shot.
We have 1.6.
We know after they die.
We have 1.6 million people in this country.
I'm sorry you had to listen to that, but this is the quality of what you get from the left, and Scott Jennings was good to keep his wits about him because it is mind-numbing. The very simple position that Jennings was articulating is you can use the military, not for domestic policing, but you can use the military in a supportive role while domestic police do what domestic police do in terms of the discharge of their duties, while federal law enforcement organizations in the Department of Homeland Security do what is consistent with their responsibilities and legal authority to discharge their duties. This is not super controversial or complicated, but this is the hyperventilating you get from these ill-informed leftists so that they don't have to deal with, 640,000 convicted criminals or illegal immigrants awaiting a criminal trial. They don't have to deal with the 85,000 missing children. They don't have to deal with the exploitation and death that happens at the border every single day with Border Patrol's hands tied, as has been well documented. They don't have to deal with what's happened in Springfield, Ohio, or Charleroi, Pennsylvania, towns being overrun by people in this country legally in some respects, but not completely. And another discussion about the corruption of the TPS, the Temporary Protected Status Program. They don't want to deal with any of that. They don't want to deal with Remain in Mexico, whether that's a sensible policy. They don't have to deal with any of the substantive policies. So they just say Trump is going to use the military. You heard the one guy say, well, how do we know if they're illegal or not? I don't know. You have ICE and Intel and record keeping that knows are people here illegally or not. Do you have an asylum application that's pending, for example?
They know that they're criminals, so they know that they're here illegally.
Of course.
But they know a crime they committed, and they still let them in anyway, and they even flew some of them here, folks.
And the response is, what? How do you know after you shoot them? Who is talking? That is so obscene. The quality of the intellectual offerings from the left, it continues to decline. For more on the actual substance of the matters, Darlene McCormick Sanchez is a reporter for Epoch Times who covers border security and immigration, election integrity, and Texas politics. Darlene McCormick Sanchez, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So your general understanding, I mean, much of it has been articulated by Tom Homan, but general understanding of the component parts of Trump's deportation program, particularly in sort of stage one of the effort.
Yes. Well, I mean, I was listening to, what you were referring to about the military, and I can comment on that briefly if you'd like.
Sure.
What's going on with that is basically Trump has proposed, dusting off this act of 1878, dating back to that time, where you can use the military in terms of domestic policy, but not to round up or arrest people. Basically, the military would be there for logistical reasons, to build centers, for example, infrastructure, for transportation, that sort of thing.
So that act doesn't allow the military to shoot people randomly, then, is what we're to understand.
No, not at all.
Right.
Yes. I mean, he's mentioned that act, and it's clear, what that act can be used for. It has been used in the past, like if you have a national emergency, if you have a natural disaster, the military can come in and help rebuild. That's been done, for decades in the United States, when there's been a real need for that. So on that point, I hope that's clear for your listeners. But in terms of what they're wanting to do, I think, they've been pretty clear, both Trump and Tom Homan, about their first stage, which would be to go after the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. There are immigrants here illegally that have criminal records wanted for crimes. They would be the first to be deported. And there's also, I think, more than 1 million of them out there that have deportation orders. So it's just an issue of finding them and deporting them. So that's.
What about the mom who has a job here, who has 5 kids? They're American citizens because they were born here, but she is not. Where does she fall on the priority list?
That's a good question. I think that's going to be pretty low on the priority list. I think what you're going to see is they are going to come out with policies making it more difficult for people who are here illegally to remain here illegally, in terms of having a job, in terms of benefits. All these programs where you're getting free health care, flying into the country, having sponsors with the parole program that has been modified to the point where it's not recognizable anymore. But those type of programs, I think you're going to see go away really quickly. And they're also talking about having employers check, immigration status. I'm not sure how that would actually work out in terms of the logistics of that. But I know a lot of states do use that program, to check, and some states have passed laws.
Yeah, well, Tom Homan on that, too. I mean, he makes the point he made in that 60 Minutes interview a few weeks back where he said, look, you're talking about slave labor. This is part of what the cartels do, these traffickers do, is they traffic people in, and they're essentially indentured servants to the cartels. And so the only way that you can deal with that is you have to do raids on companies that are benefiting from people in this country working illegally that are tethered to the cartels. That's one of the ways we do it. So this is one of the tools that he has at his disposal, or the agencies have at their disposal, is those raids based on, that legitimate reason.
Yeah, I would definitely. I think that's what, he's saying, that is one of the tools that they would have, at their disposal. They're also looking at, self-deportation, basically saying to those that came over illegally, look, if you leave now, if we have to deport you, then there's going to be a consequence. I've heard that, that it might be 10 years before you could come back, but I also heard, I believe he was saying, upping that to maybe 20 years where you could come back into the country legally, or I guess, if you got caught again, you'd be immediately, expelled. But there's that as well. So if you left on your own accord and applied to come here legally, then, you'd have a much better chance of getting in and staying. But if they do find you, here's what I think is the interesting point about this. Some of these, sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, I guess, that, don't want to cooperate with ICE, in deportation. What's going to happen in those situations? Tom Homan, I believe, has spoken to this point. If they have to go out into the neighborhoods instead of picking these people up at a jail if they're, arrested for something, and they have to go out into the neighborhoods, they're going to go to these neighborhoods, and they'll probably find more people who are there illegally, So you're going to have more arrests instead of less arrests, and probably more deportation. So either way, these people, I think, are going to be deported.
Progress Trump has announced he's made in discussions with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, and I guess to some extent Trudeau as well, with respect to their respective countries' constructive engagement with the United States when it comes to border security. Do you think that's real?
I do, and the reason I do is I think, of course, these are leaders of their own countries. They have to take a political stance as well, But I think that in the end, they are going to cooperate with the United States. I mean, their trade, they're our biggest trade partners. I think that that's just going to end up being the way it is because I think they understand that Trump is serious. I mean, he was certainly serious about it last time. That was one of his main campaign points this time around. So I don't think he's going to forget about it or let it go. He's going to make it happen one way or the other. There's also been talk about, for example, let's say that, the tariff situation didn't come through for whatever reason, of taxing, remittance going back into Mexico. That would be huge if something like that was put into effect.
Darlene McCormick-Sanchez, Epoch Times reporter who covers border security and immigration, election integrity, and Texas politics. Darlene, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Amy Jacobson and Dan Proft here, and we want to tell you about our 2024 Food for the Poor campaign.
If you've listened to the station and to our show for any length of time, then you already know about Food for the Poor. They are a nonprofit, faith-based organization that provides food, water, medicine, clothing, and life-saving supplies directly to local partners in Latin America and the Caribbean.
We all know how bad the situation is right now in Latin America and the Caribbean.
For many families, the cost of food has simply become prohibitive, leading to sickness and starvation.
The only thing standing standing between these families and starvation is Food for the Poor. But in order to get this food to those who need it most, Food for the Poor needs your help. Your one-time gift of just $50 can provide life-saving food for a child for an entire year and provide their community with access to water.
To give a gift of any amount, just call 844-862-4673. That's 844-862-4673.
Or you can visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor or just click on the Give Life banner.
There's no ignoring it. Americans know they've been lied to by the ruling class, that politicians want more control over their lives and more taxes for nonsense. Who voted for this, and how do we get back to normal? It starts by being informed. But who do you trust when the media censors information and colludes with those in charge for their own political power? Breakthrough Ideas is a beacon of clarity in the storm of politics. At Breakthrough, Jeannie Ives and her team follows the legislation and the money and reports back to you so you know who's on your side. Elections matter. Be an informed voter. You can do that by listening to The Real Story with Jeannie Ives on Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. right here on AM 560. Visit breakthrough-ideas.com to sign up for the newsletter, register for upcoming events, and stay informed with fresh content. Then connect with them on social media and share information with others. So together, we vote out the radicals and vote in common sense. That's breakthrough-ideas.com.
Why pay more for prescriptions? Stop overpaying and start saving with SingleCare. It's easy. Find your prescription on singlecare.com, show the coupon at the pharmacy, and start saving. SingleCare works at pharmacies nationwide and is completely free to use, whether you have insurance or not. So the next time you fill a prescription, check SingleCare to make sure you're getting the best price. Take control of your prescription costs. Go to singlecare.com or download the free app today.
As a business owner, do you have a strategy for exiting your business? Most business owners don't. Studies done by the Exit Planning Institute show 75% of business owners who don't have an exit plan are dissatisfied with their exit, and 80% of businesses put to market never sell. Total Clarity Wealth Management understands the hesitation to discuss exiting. Will customers leave? Will competitors take advantage? Will key employees leave? That's why they offer confidential planning. Contact Anne-Marie at Total Clarity Wealth Management. Discover what the financial foundation should be to pursue an exit that is satisfying. At some point, you are going to leave your business. Will it be on your terms? Total Clarity can show you the way to financial readiness and keep you on track. Anne-Marie is a certified exit planning advisor. Visit TotalClarityBusiness.com. That's TotalClarityBusiness.com. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Total Clarity Wealth Management, Inc., a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial.
Healthcare.gov has plans for health because you have plans for life. All plans cover doctor visits and emergency care to keep you and your family running strong. All plans cover hospital stays and prescriptions, so you can have peace of mind. Visit healthcare.gov to explore health plans from the brands you know. 4 out of 5 customers can find a health plan for $10 or less per month with financial help. Enroll at healthcare.gov by December 15th for coverage starting January 1st. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
AM 560, The Answer.
Okay, real quick, Dan. Golfer Haley Davidson's not happy. The LPGA and the USGA say players must now be born female or transition before male puberty to compete in tournaments. So
yeah, I know. There goes my chance to make the LPGA.
I know. I had the skirt picked out for you and everything, Dan.
That's too bad.
So sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for making us part of your morning, part of your lives. Dan, anything to say? Anything to add?
No, after Leslie Sadowski Fugit and that CNN panel, I have to go rest my brain.
Okay. Thanks to Justin Kosick and Quinn McCarthy back here bright and early tomorrow morning. Bundle up. It's cold out there. Now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
An operations manager at McCormick Place is indicted. A deadly shooting being investigated on the far south side. Fire at a homeless encampment in Elgin. WIND Chicago News Time is 9 o'clock.
He wants to restore public trust in Secret Service. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what Acting Director Ronald Rowe just told a House hearing.
July 13th was a failure of the Secret Service to adequately secure the Butler Farm Show site and protect President-elect Trump.
Referencing the assassination attempt in Pennsylvania that left Trump bloody after a bullet grazed his right ear, Rowe says he's focused on making sure the security failures in the shooting that also left a Trump rally attendee dead never happen again. The chairman of the House task force probing both assassination attempts, Republican Mike Kelly, says their investigation found
planning areas by Secret Service not only created confusion among local law enforcement partners, but also among the Secret Service agents working at the rally.
Also at the Capitol today, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, the business leaders President-elect Trump has put in charge of DOGE, a new agency to make government more efficient.
You know, we've got this $36 trillion national debt. Musk and Ramaswamy will come here to Capitol Hill to lay out their plan to cut government waste today. They want to reduce the federal workforce by 75%, cut $2 trillion in federal spending, and close down entire agencies. One of them could be the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Fox's Aisha Hasni. New York City police still searching for the masked gunman who murdered United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Police have him on surveillance video and potential DNA from his trash at a Starbucks, and they're also investigating
words that were etched, according to the New York Post, into some shell casings that were found here in Midtown Manhattan. What did the messages say? We're told it was deny, depose rather, and defend. What's the significance? Well, that's pretty similar to a title of a book back from 2010 that talks all about the insurance industry slamming some of their practices.
Fox's Alexis McAdams at the murder scene outside a Manhattan hotel. Two kids, age 5 and 6, remain in critical condition the morning after